treasure that's so shiny. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and my partners love me for it. I'm a natural 20 when it comes to being me. I'm a time traveler, so Alonzi. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, I'm proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, I'm proud to be. In whatever sitch, like singing on Twitch or playing D&D. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder. You may call me obsessive, but I just border on being a collector and being a dragon that sits atop my treasure that's so shiny. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and my partners love me for it. I'm a natural 20 when it comes to being me. I'm a time traveler, so Alonzi. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, I'm proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, I'm proud to be. In whatever sitch, like singing on Twitch or playing D&D. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder. You may call me obsessive, but I just border on being a collector and being a dragon that sits atop my treasure that's so shiny. I'm a badass asexual polyhedral disorder, and my partners love me for it. I'm a natural 20 when it comes to being me. I'm a time traveler, so Alonzi.
Oh, wrong one. Fuck. Always. Hi, everybody.
Oh, no.
It's okay. I got it. It's fine. No super issues this time.
Yeah.
What is up, friends? Welcome to another issue of Higurashi no Nakagoro. We are back on the time-wasting arc, this sort of prequel arc to what happens later on and kind of sets up some of the stuff we've read about in previous arcs. As always, I'm joined by David and Kayla. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I am David.
And they're gonna run this joke into the ground. Anywho,
What are you talking about? We're just introducing ourselves.
Yes, certainly. Yes.
We're just pounding it into the ground even further, like this is a Dragon Ball Z fight or something.
Dragon Ball Z fight of
Goes
introductions.
further every week.
Of course. But yeah, where last we left off, we were dealing with the fact that we're pretty sure that the Sonozaki family knows that there's like someone from public safety in Hinamizawa prying on stuff, trying to find the kid. That made us nervous. But we ended up meeting up with ACAB again, Oishi, and going about trying to get some more information, trying to like look around more, and ended up finding the kid along with 2 of the thugs that were holding him hostage. And
Guns.
And
Yep.
Oishi kind of saved our life.
yep. And also well, first got himself clocked, then ended up saving our life. And so we got the kid. The other 2 ran away. Everyone will probably vouch for them. But as of right now, oh, sorry, I was doing Angie face there for a second. Everything seems to be okay. I guess we'll see how it goes. But Rika was still creepy. And we don't know how to deal with that.
Hey now, she's not creepy. She's mysterious.
Yeah, she's mysterious. She was kind of creepy to him, telling him, like, bad things will happen if you do it. Hey, Kimmy! Thank you so much for the raid! Ah, damn it. Of course my alerts aren't... Hold on. I'm gonna fix
We
this.
just
Always.
started.
I know! Well, I mean, I was on the wrong thing for that, but I think I know what's... Apparently some things work when I have OBS do it, and some things don't. It's very dumb. Welcome, Raiders. Glad to see you. Hope your stream was amazing, Kimmy. Hey, Link. Good to see you. Oh, man. I fix some of my shit and hope it works tonight. This is fine. Everything is fine. Alright, that better work. Damn it. It was full of feels? Oh. Hopefully good feels. Hopefully not...
I don't
Hopefully
think
not super
anybody's
sad
really having
feels.
Good feels during this game.
Yeah. I mean, from Kimmy's stream. Yeah, there's definitely not probably not going to be good feels in this game. Maybe. Game, quote unquote.
You'll be getting a lot of confusion.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of confusion, yeah. Confusion and, well, I mean, we already figured out... We already played Mahjong with a guy who's gonna, like, get fucking murdered.
Yeah.
It's not just murdered, though.
Yeah, pretty badly murdered. Nevermore met their daughter. Oh, Nevermore! Oh. Nevermore continues on. I'm glad for that. Aw. That's great. Well, thank you again, Kimmy. We're just getting started. So, please have your feels, get your food, get hydrated, get some rest, friend. I hope you had a wonderful time having the feels, meeting Nevermore's daughter, and that I love to hear. I want to hear about all that later, okay? But yeah. Let's fucking do this. Okay. Y'all ready?
Was born ready. Do you want to be a narrator?
Go.
Or you want me to? Beginning.
I can start it off.
Okay.
You all about it? Have fun. Gonna get cooled off? Yes. Go do it. I can't wait to hear. Later, Kimmy. All right, let's continue. Higurashi no Kokoro ni. Nos! Okay, now it works at least. Holy shit.
What, almost a year?
Almost a year. Holy shit. Thank you very much, Nos. Good to see you. You can't see me, but I'm making hearts as hard as I can. Right. That was my first time losing consciousness. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it.
Hello, are you okay?
Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seems my body language had told him I was unconscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. The scratches all over my body had been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting all throughout me.
Don't try to get up. Just stay lying down, It seems that you took quite a few blows to the head.
You're very quiet somehow, and you're at 100. You're like 200%, David.
No.
Beyonce, that mic.
Bitch, better have my sound.
Not too much better.
Ah, fucking hell.
Butter, but not too much.
Alright, 1 sec.
We tried, chat.
Please
We tried.
hope for technical difficulties. They will happen every stream. And yeah, I was gonna start singing the Jeopardy theme song, but you know what? That works
Yeah.
too.
The Jeopardy theme song feels kind of sad to me. I don't know at the moment. Just not the same
Sad?
without Alex.
True.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh,
My
fuck!
God.
Okay, I'm turning you down again.
Yes, we
Talk,
heard you. I
talk.
swear we heard you.
Talk again.
Hello?
Oh god, okay. Hold on. I need to turn you down now.
I've given up on the headset mic and have just reached over and grabbed the Yeti, and it is now sitting on my lap.
Is it using the Yeti? Because that does not sound
my
like the
God.
Yeti at all.
It's definitely using the Yeti.
Wow. You
It's
might want to turn
just
down
a
the
Yeti.
gain on that.
Beep, beep, beep.
So much better. Oh god.
Yep.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay.
Cool.
Continue.
I have to get back to the stream. I want you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Very serious business that we had to get back to.
Yep.
This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you. My name is Ivan.
We're just calling him
Yes,
Ivan
make
now.
that
Okay.
Ivan,
Okay.
yes.
Got it. I remembered that this young doctor was in the car headed the opposite way earlier.
Is there somebody here? Where's Akab-san? Yeah, I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside.
Dr. Ivan left the room to go call ACAB. The scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. The pouring rain had stopped, with the voices of Higurashi heralding the cooler temperatures. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voice was comforting. Eventually, I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be ACAB's. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door of the room flew open, allowing Dr. Ivan and ACAB to enter.
So there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assess the wound to his head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I want to have a little chat alone with him for a bit. Would you mind? Yeah. Go ahead. Call if anything happens.
ACAB, after basically forcing Dr. Ivan outside, shut the door.
How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over. Mood.
That's what she said. ACAB brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed.
Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. They probably already fled the prefecture or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. What about the minister's grandson? They're taking care of him at the station. But your colleagues from Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing be recorded. Shige doesn't like that too much.
The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. But something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over.
Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is a rather unseemly place, don't you? Oh, no. We all work on the government's dime.
ACAB laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against ACAB, but now the feeling was gone completely.
Be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we would be able to have something to go at the Sonozaki family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just start poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you going to continue the fight against the Sonozaki family after this? Nah. There's all sorts of dark rumors swirling around them, but it's not like I have a personal grudge. Be wise not to step on any toes here.
ACAB laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along.
Oh, that's right. There was word at the station from the prefectural police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya and are driving up here right now. You've got your battle scars, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently. That's how it's shaken up. Good job. Your work in Okinomiya is safely over.
I was being recalled to Tokyo. I had inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words.
I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Akab-san. It seems the collaboration fee I paid you didn't go to waste. I kind of meant that as a joke, though.
ACAB took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills, and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt.
This isn't a refund on the collaboration fee, you hear? This is just me gifting you a little spending money. Booze around here is pretty good. Use this to buy yourself a little souvenir.
ACAB flashed me a grin.
If your injuries turn out to not be too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will you? The old man and Sato said they'd like to sit at a table with you again. Oh my. Can't refuse that.
Yes, you can.
No tricks this time. Just some plain old fun. They always say that. This world is done for if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. It's not often that we meet someone who's more than a match for us. It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo.
When I heard the words "going back to Tokyo" from ACAB, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon Yukie would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had at one time given up on. When I thought that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yukie at once.
Can you pretend that your injuries are a bit more serious and hang around Okinomiya for a bit? I can introduce you to a few nice places. Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. I'm terribly sorry, but I'll have to take a rain check on that. My wife is due to give birth any day now. I want to hurry back home. Oh my, oh my! I didn't know that. You shouldn't be hanging around here. You have to hurry back home. But that is what he's saying.
Yeah. For a while after that, ACAB asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me.
Well then, how do you feel? Think you can get up? Yeah, it's not so bad, thanks to you. I can get up and walk, no problem.
I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse ACAB.
I just thought you might not feel comfortable at a hospital in Hinamizawa. Dr. Ivan said he wanted you to stay overnight, but we still haven't got the perpetrators. For the time being, this is enemy territory for you, after all.
Oops.
You saying this hospital isn't safe? Well, Dr. Ivan is somebody who's well regarded in the community. I don't think anything will happen while you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health.
I'd relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Akeb had said. When I realized that this was the enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. With the only thing left for me to do, with the only thing left for me to do was leave. What? That sounds so awkward. The chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low. But that didn't mean I was completely safe.
That's right. If I'm just going to be lying down and doing it in a hotel bed, won't be all that different. Right. I also think that's for the best.
At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Akeb's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours when I could call Yuki at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I would soon be back at her side.
I want to call Yuki at the hospital. Is there a public phone in the lobby? You newlyweds are all like this. If I recall correctly, there's one by the register. I'll be waiting here, so go ahead.
Akeb, laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative at how considerate Akeb was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. The lobby was just a short distance down the hallway from the hospital room. I thought that the hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yuki was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would soon end, so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to the conversation between me and Yukie. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around my pockets, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through the amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver and inserted a coin, then dialed the number from Yukie's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. The number for Yukie's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it inevitably took some time. Normally it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently any time was precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing in the number. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Somehow I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone, and without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try it again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent.
What is this? Is it disconnected?
While I was wasting time like this, the amount that I had to spend talking with Yuki shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient.
Excuse me!
I felt the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over.
Yes, how can I help you?
Pardon me. This phone seems to be acting a little strange. Did you take a look at it?
The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he.
Huh? What's this?
The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed.
What the heck is that?
Oh.
What the heck is that? Well, this is a dilly of a pickle. Can't do anything about this until somebody from the phone company comes and fixes it. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use one in the office?
I didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking.
Is there another payphone close by?
Let's see. If you leave here and follow the road, you'll come out into the shopping district. I think there's a smoke shop on the corner around there. If you head that way, you should be able to find one soon enough.
I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impetuousness of youth came in. Choosing the chance to talk to Yuki for even a little longer, I headed outside my current state. Why don't you just use the one in the fucking office? You could talk to her longer that way.
You get so much more time.
My God.
Won't even have to pay for it, probably.
He's gonna get stabbed while talking to her.
Yeah.
Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find one soon enough.
Did Chi die in a payphone booth at one point, too, in the first arc?
Yeah, he clawed out his own throat.
Yeah.
With only those 2 lines as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital.
Like a madman.
With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse street lights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their course was soon to close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was it just getting farther away? Just as I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards. Just as I heard the hospital, set next to the counter of the cigarette shop was an antiquated payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much left, though. But it was enough. Just long enough that I could tell Yuki my job was done and that I would be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. But I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting in the coin one more time. But there was absolutely no response. This phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of a completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut.
Excuse me? Hello?
Opening up the booth window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were the sounds of somebody plodding down some stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding in lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic.
You need some cigarettes? I'll get my husband.
I'm not here to buy cigarettes. Rather, this phone here.
Realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words.
Sorry, it seems that this phone is broken, and I was wondering if you could tell me where there's another payphone?
The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly, as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she had digested things thoroughly.
So, this phone is broken. That's a diddly of a pickle. You should try another payphone.
The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At that moment, I spotted a clock in the dim interior of the store. The minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I would only be able to tell Yuki a good night with the time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone, which I didn't know the exact distance to. Oh, Sora Blue, hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for the raid. How was your stream? Welcome, raiders. We are going through, Higurashi when they cry, and we're dealing with the fact that we've been trying to call our wife in the hospital, but every time we found a payphone, the cord's been cut on it. So creepy.
But he won't use the office phone.
Hello, Lead Pipe. Welcome. Yeah, you wouldn't use the office phone because you're fucking embarrassed. Damn it, Japan. But yes, welcome. Hello, I'm Flint. I'm a musician. Sorry, I'm doing the Anki face by accident. Still getting used to the quick change.
Dang, you're angry a lot, Flint.
I know, right? Yep. A musician,
Just a very
Banshee
angry
VTuber.
person.
Yep. You know, aggressive fucking positivity. Welcome to my brand. Fuck off. You beautiful people, I fucking love you. Okay. So yeah. We are going through a visual novel. Technically a sound novel, because there's some visuals, but it's mostly kind of reading through the story and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. So now we gotta figure out, let's see. If I was in a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been the natural thought process. But at that moment, I had become somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use the phone in the hospital and coming out here and still being unable to use one. You could use the other phone in the hospital, you jackass. There was no mistaking that I had become quite insistent on using a phone.
Thank you very much. I'll try looking for that phone booth.
Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop.
At least get a fucking... She offered to draw you a map.
Yeah. According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite far away, it would be easy to find. If I just followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it.
Yes,
Sandals
let us go into town, into enemy territory, without a son.
Yeah,
Searching
right.
for a phone that he is now not going to be able to really use to call his wife.
Yeah.
This is extremely stupid.
Yep.
Mhm.
Sandal
Well, I
swap.
think he might be about to acknowledge.
Yeah. Sandal swapping as I ran, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling Yukie, but there were days where I was tired or busy when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered with injuries, and I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. But having twice been foiled trying to call her, had I become hot-headed about it? Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangled in my face?
What am I doing?
Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same with the one at the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed by long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who, and for what reason? The more I thought about it, the uneasier I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? The scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. The surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. I recalled the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. If I just wanted to hear Yukie's voice, I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone in the office. Yeah, I regretted it a little. A little?
Only a little?
Bitch!
Gosh.
Bitch, what?
Bitch, you fucking idiot.
Well then, was it about time to give up? Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I'd finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed that the light in the phone booth had recently been changed, and it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Hinamizawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But in any case, I'd finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yukie. Since I'd spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Is that doing okay? We will hopefully do so. Thank you very much. Hope your stream went amazingly and you get all the rest. And make sure to hydrate before you dehydrate. Good to see you, friend. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might be severed as well. How was the cord in the phone booth? Swatted down, I followed a bundle of cables as I ran along a corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wondered if it was popular in Hinamizawa to cut the cord of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to talk to ACAP-san about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. In any case, this one was fine, this time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket with one hand, I picked up the receiver with the other. But this time, before the receiver ran to reach my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling, it felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance.
What the hell is this?
The coiled cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, the tip of the cable swaying in the air. It was all I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up to the small of my back. It was a type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see the outside into the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with that strong light, which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill wash over me. And there was a silhouette of a person. A small silhouette.
You're...
The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze.
Oh no.
Yes. Injured people shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew that she was that girl.
Right, Akasaka?
She, Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning.
Did you do this to the phone cord?
Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions.
Why would you do something like this? Why?
The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid.
There's nothing that can be done.
Huh?
I interpreted her words as meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But thinking about it, that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she had to say, I could take what she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped.
I know very well that you think I'm disgusting, Akasaka.
Huh. No. That's not true.
My denial came out almost like a bad piece composed for a poetry slam, but her words were right on the mark. I'd always felt something ominous and canny about her.
No, you didn't.
Ever
Lies.
since her strange threats at the shrine.
Okay, fair.
Let him
Okay.
finish. She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them.
Akasaka, you coward.
I'm not a coward.
Being laughed at by the small child didn't sit well with me, so I said that.
Even if you find another phone, it's too late.
Sorry, what? Does he say sigh out loud? Sigh.
I mean, I say
That's
it all
right.
the time.
Yeah, but this is like the 70s or something at this point.
Yeah. Welcome to the 70s. She didn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for today. Once I decided that, my unhealthy obsession with phones suddenly faded. Even I thought that it was strange that I was obsessed.
Okay.
That strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals, my head wrapped in bandages, my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. With wanting to hear Yuke's voice as my motive, I had traipsed around the town the entire evening.
Office phone.
I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do but to laugh at myself.
No, there's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight.
All right. Hey, Junie. How you doing?
You're right. There's nothing. I'll just quietly return to the hospital.
That's fine. Do you know the way?
I hope I do.
She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see that she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost.
Is Rika's house also this way?
It is.
Won't your parents be mad that you're walking around alone at this hour?
Not really. My parents are busy today, so they probably forgot about me.
Even then, it's best if you head on home. They'll definitely be angry.
Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka. So I'm fine.
She said that with a face free from worry as she looked at me up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, the eerie feeling surrounding her faded. Good chill, collecting things and... Oh, nice! Collect all the things. 100% it. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier. But it was much darker than before, and with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this actually was the corner I turned at. There's no mistaking it. It had to be this corner. As I began to move on my feet again, the girl grabbed onto my clothes.
Is it Akasaka going back to the hospital?
Of course. At least I intend to. Am I going the wrong way?
A short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding onto my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on.
Huh? What an odd statement.
Yeah, I don't... yeah. You want to take over, Kayla?
Sure.
Though I guess, yeah. I mean, technically you're going to be Rika in this, but it's up to you.
I don't care. Do you want me to take over?
I'm okay for now. I just realized that
Okay,
you hadn't
go
been able
ahead.
to talk much, but you got to be Rika, so...
Keep going.
Okay.
Sounds like Rika's gonna be talking plenty.
Yeah.
The person who was running around cutting all the phone cords was you, wasn't it, Rika? You shouldn't do that anymore.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Really?
She tried to play dumb, but it was written all over her face.
Nippa!
It was obvious she was trying to laugh it off, but that adorable smile of hers just made me want to forgive her. I'm going to be a horrible father, aren't I? That momentary lapse in tension was erased by her next words.
It's good that they found the grandson safe and sound.
Unable to respond right away, I sunk into silence. I'd already learned this from Sato-san's info, didn't I? This girl? No. This entire village knew everything since the moment I set foot into it. I considered playing dumb, but in the end I chose not to. With everything being known already, there was no point in me feigning ignorance.
Somehow.
That's great. I can go back to Tokyo.
Thank you.
Are your injuries bad, Akasaka?
Dunno. I haven't heard anything from the doctor yet, so I don't know if they are or not.
And you just ran multiple blocks?
Yeah, seriously.
In the dark?
Yeah. Huh? Come to think of it, I vaguely remembered being told to lie down and take it easy for at least 24 hours. Did that mean bed rest? You idiot!
The idiotic wounded shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
People shouldn't be cutting phone cords.
Meep. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Then I don't know what you're talking about either.
As we played dumb with each other, we both laughed at the same time. If somebody saw us laughing at each other like this, it would probably bring a smile to their lips. Yeah, a little girl and a guy with bandages wrapped around his head in a hospital gown wandering around outside in the dead of night.
Totally gonna bring a smile to everybody's faces.
100%. The chances of Akasaka leaving this village alive weren't very high. I don't want Akasaka to die, so I'm glad you're leaving the village alive.
Rika, did you know what I was right from the beginning?
She said nothing but gave a firm nod.
Well then. I think you know this, but we're probably somewhat of an enemy to the people in this village, I would think. But you still gave me lots of warnings.
That's right. She said it at that time. She wouldn't warn somebody that she was okay with dying. She definitely said something like that.
Then I should probably be thanking you.
You probably should. I'm your savior.
Saying that, she puffed up her chest proudly. She said it jokingly, but the meaning behind those words was quite heavy. That was because whether I lived or died was a decision that might have been made in a place unbeknownst to me. She said those words with such an adorable smile that it took a few moments of silence for their weight to settle in. I'd been to this place before. The Defense Alliance's office was there. It was a stone steps leading up to the Furude Shrine. When I passed by before, I was so focused on finding a phone booth I hadn't realized where I was.
If I recall correctly, this shrine is Rika's house, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Looking up at the shrine grounds, it was brightly lit and energetic voices could be heard. What was going on?
There's a festival today.
A festival?
The best and only festival.
Oh,
no.
God.
Oh no! The best and only festival in Hinamizawa. The Tanagashi Festival.
What Tanagashi? Cotton drifting?
Just knowing the name is boring. Do you want to take a look?
She asked bluntly. But seeing that I looked interested, she climbed up a couple of steps and motioned for me to come. I was only going to go back to sleep anyways. If I had nothing else to do, it might not be a bad idea to go with her on a little detour.
Right.
In the hostile territory that was this village, I didn't know what would happen if I ventured down a side road without a cab. Even though I thought of the village like that, when I was with this girl, I forgot all about it. In any case, even without anything to back it up, I felt that as long as I was with her, none of the ill will from the village would befall me. That's why, even though I knew my cover was blown, I strangely had no qualms about setting foot into the heart of the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance's territory. Hey Daniel, thanks for lurk! Oh, I need to fix that overlay. I'll figure it out. Climbing up to the grounds of the shrine, I could see there were about 3 pavilions set up, with meeting tables and folding chairs. The old folks from the village, the executives of the Defense Alliance, were already quite drunkenly sharing another round of drinks. I could only see it as the people from the village council drinking while enjoying the evening air. At the very least, it was certainly quite different than any festival I'd ever seen.
See? It's quite a boring festival, isn't it?
This certainly doesn't look like a festival.
It's a festival that happened since long ago. But as you can see, it's not like it used to be.
As if to chide the old folks, she said that while looking at them with an exasperated expression. You really couldn't call this a festival anymore. It was just a bunch of neighbors getting together to drink under the guise of a festival.
I feel sorry for the deity being celebrated here.
Give the sorry excuse for a festival 5 or 6 more years, and everybody in the village will start coming. Oh. Oh.
Oh my god!
The ceremony will also be done properly and be a respectful festival again.
Damn.
Wow.
Help!
Just a quick question, by chance I'm, remembering stuff wrong. We started about 5 or 6 years ahead of this, right?
5 years in the future.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
We start basically 5 years in the future from today. Is the Watanagashi that Keiichi witnesses.
Yep.
What she said was not so much wishful thinking as it was the telling of a future that had already been determined. She wasn't even predicting it. It was almost like she was simply reporting the results. That's how it sounded. Even though it was baseless speculation, the way she said it wouldn't let me interject. It was the same way she talked when she changed. While I struggled to find the words to reply to her, she wandered over to the other side of the grounds, not minding me at all. Not in a state where I could afford to be left behind, I hurriedly followed after her. Passing through a copse of pine trees, a strong and cool breeze ruffled my hair. There, from that one evening, was the splendid observation platform the girl had shown me. As it had grown completely dark, the modest lights littered across the nightscape were providing a different kind of scenery.
Looking at it like this village seems tranquil.
Oh, that was her. She said that with an indifferent look on her face. Oh.
He's indifferent.
Just the other day, You said that this village definitely wouldn't be submerged by the dam, didn't you?
She didn't reply, seemingly relishing in the feeling of the wind blowing through her hair.
Didn't that mean, at that point in time, the minister had already complied with the demands?
She spun around, her gaze meeting mine. But she said nothing. She spoke nothing that would neither confirm nor deny what I had just said.
This case will probably... Who's which? Headquarters probably
know.
doesn't want trouble from a scandal with the minister breaking out.
There's no mistake that they threatened to kill the grandchild.
Then the negotiations with the minister were successful, and the grandson was released.
The one who saved the grandson was you.
I wonder about that. The discovery of that wallet that started this chain of events. That alone was almost too convenient, I think.
Ever since the moment that wallet was discovered, I felt something was odd. Akeb said it as well, that the Sonozaki family had given the order to release the hostage, meaning that our little manhunt was a farce to begin with. Come to think of it, I was punched, kicked, and had a gun pointed at me. I felt like they put up quite a fight, but that might have all been part of the good performance. Once the negotiations were successful, they couldn't just say, "Here you go," and return the minister's grandson right to his doorstep. They knew that public safety had realized that this was a kidnapping case and were moving in on it. That's why, due to the actions of public safety, the grandson was able to be rescued safely. So the minister didn't give in to any unreasonable demands. That type of performance was necessary.
I don't know about these difficult things.
Likewise. Even for me, I can't make much sense of it. But there's one thing I can be certain of. It's just as you said. This village won't be submerged. The dam project will soon be over.
A damn project.
Damn project.
That wasn't something an officer of the law should be saying. But I naturally let those words slip from my mouth. This village may have stirred up all sorts of trouble, but that was because they were protecting their homes. If someone just decided by themselves that I had to leave the house that I was used to living in, I would resent them as well. On top of that, it wasn't a place like mine where I just happened to be renting it, but a place that their families had lived in for generations. It might be ignorant to call their desperate resistance an overreaction. I might not really be qualified to criticize politics or bureaucracy, but deliberately building a dam on land that was loved by its residents wasn't something I could get behind.
Still, aren't you glad?
Why would that be?
At the very least, with this, peace will return to this village.
Oh, I think we mixed those
Yep,
up.
I'm pretty sure too.
Even though the minister promised to use his considerable influence to cancel the project, it would probably take more than a few months before it would be completely scrapped. At the very least, it would probably take 1 or 2 years. For the villagers to officially hear that the village wasn't going to be submerged at the bottom of a dam was still a ways away. But it was no mistake that the promise of peace returning to the village was there. It turned out from beginning to end that it had already all been decided. Just as the girl had said, it was decided. There wasn't really a need for me to come here in the first place. There was absolutely no need for me to have come here and aggravate an unpleasant situation. If I'd never come here, then the grandson's release might have been done in a more amicable manner.
Peace? In this village?
When I nodded, she laughed as if to admonish me, but her face remained indifferent, expressionless. And then her eyes narrowed slightly as she snickered.
Even though every year from now on, something bloody will occur?
Rika, what are you talking about?
As the wind blew her hair about, the girl, as if taking pleasure in that I was the only one who didn't know, continued to snicker as she looked at my face for a while.
You see, in a few years, I'll be killed.
What?
Huh? Backlit by the moon, it was hard to tell if the expression that had been cast in shadows was smiling and amused. or
She
resigned.
did just get killed, didn't she?
Yeah, she's been killed every arc so far, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You are? Why?
It's a very unpleasant thing, though. It's also probably been decided already.
Decided already? Who would decide that sort of thing?
I'd like to know that as well.
Turning back to face me, she showed me a resolute expression for the first time. And after staring into my eyes for a moment, she turned back to gaze at the scenery before she spoke her next words.
There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life. Even if I tell you this, it might not change anything, though. But if you want to erase the specter of death, sometimes, like with a reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone.
I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul, or at least that's what I thought.
This day, next year? Yes, June 1979. On this day, the foreman of the dam construction project will be killed.
What?
For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. By the foreman, did she mean that gruff old man I played mahjong with?
Be killed? What makes you think...
She didn't answer. But she had the same expression on her face as she did when she declared that the dam project would go away. That wasn't the face of somebody making a forecast or prediction. It was something that was already decided. No. It was as if she was already reporting the results. That sort of expression.
After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body will be torn apart and disposed of.
Murdered and dismembered.
The next year, in June of 1980, on this day, Satsuko's parents will be pushed to their deaths.
Satoko? It was the first time I heard that name, but I didn't have the courage to interrupt the girl's story.
It might be an accident. An unfortunate accident.
The girl smiled faintly, but she wasn't exactly encouraging me to smile along with the lifeless look in her eyes.
And then, the year after that, this day in June of 1981, my parents will be killed. And then the year after that, this day in June of 1982, Satoko's abusive aunt will have her head split open and die. Then the year after that, this day in the June of 1983, or possibly a few days afterward, I will be killed.
If all the deaths are preordained, then the last one would also be all according to plan. But then whose plan would it be?
This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths up to 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There was no way that the last death would fit in with anybody's plans. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with the last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen.
Wait.
Probably.
So definitely, most likely,
Yeah.
probably, without question.
Yeah.
Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again.
That's not what I remember from the last two deaths of Rika's.
No.
Exactly whose plan was that?
I want to live happily. That's my only wish. Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably. Only that. I don't wish for anything more than that.
Rika.
don't want to die.
The girl, stoic as ever, let those last words slip in the end. Eventually, we were discovered by some drunks. The girl, as well as I, were dragged back to the festivities. Everybody was completely drunk, so even when they saw my head completely wrapped in bandages, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, certainly, if I was in good enough condition to slip out of the hospital, it must not be that serious. The girl was mingling with everybody, being pampered like a kitten. Her expression was adorable, nothing like the one from just before, predicting her own death and whispering that she didn't want to die. Having said that, having a silly and lively conversation like this, it was hard to believe that these people were the core of an extremist resistance group. Even if it was a shell of a former self, it was a festival where people in the village gathered, so the 20-some-odd folk here should have included some of the village executives or other important members. Among those, there was no doubt that there were members at the Sonozaki family council in attendance. Meaning, even if we never met face-to-face before, there were people here who knew my identity. In a small village like this, they knew the faces of all the villagers that lived here. That's why, without even saying anything, it soon became obvious that I was an outsider. But they actually seemed interested by that, asking me all sorts of questions about Tokyo, drinking while musing on the faint relationship the city had with the villagers and empathizing with the rather meager environment. The confidential talks with the minister were finished, his grandson was in police custody, everything was over. I might not have to be put in another perilous situation. To me, they were only my adversaries because of my job. Outside of that, there was no reason I couldn't be friendly with them. The next time I visited this village, would it return to being a tranquil and beautiful place? If that happened, I might be able to take a relaxed walk around the village with her again. My cup was once again filled to the brim with beer. You just fucking heard her talking about how she's gonna fucking die, and people are gonna keep dying.
Yep.
By the time I was able to get away, it was the middle of the night. The girl had at some point disappeared. It seems that her parents had told her to go home and sleep when she let out a large yawn. The old folks, who had absolutely no remorse for making an injured person to hang out with them, told me as much as they laughed. I was just there drinking, so I had thought to help a bit with cleanup. However, my help was refused on the grounds that I was a guest. On top of that, they had a car prepared to take me back to the hospital. Losing the battle against my sleepiness inside the car, I was sound asleep until we reached the parking lot of the hospital. The front door of the hospital was naturally locked at this hour. I wandered around bewildered, searching for a back entrance until somebody on night duty found and let me inside. Kayla.
Where were you this late at night? Dr. Ivan was worried, you know.
Sorry for the trouble. I was held up by the people having a festival at the shrine.
Oh, they did say something about everybody in the town council getting together for a drink. My condolences. Everyone's alright.
They're throbbing a bit. It's probably because of the alcohol, I think.
Oh, that's right. The detective that was with you wanted to get in touch.
Oops. I kept the cups on waiting. You sure did.
I glanced at the clock. No matter how you looked at it, it was way too late to call him now. I'll apologize to him tomorrow over the phone. I returned back to my hospital room and slipped into the bed that was still unmade from the time I went outside. Oh, that's no good. I have to turn off the lights. My weariness had cut the cord, powering my body, lulling me to deep sleep. Cutting the cord. End!
End of chapter.
Well. New tips.
Mother's Diary 1, 2, and 3.
Prophecy of the Beginning. Achievement unlocked.
A new Chiba.
Okay. Do you want to read this, Kayla?
There was something I didn't like about my child. First realized it when I started writing these things down. They never warn you about it in any books about raising children, but they aren't just a plaything. They aren't able to feel loved, even when they're doing not exactly what their parents want them to. Those parents are failures. This wasn't something like that, though. How can I say it? It's probably harder to express with mere words. I just want my child to be average. As long as they weren't falling behind, there wasn't any need for them to excel at something. As long as I have acted appropriately for their age, I would have been fine with it. But my child has been different ever since kindergarten. While the children in her class were running around in excitement about the field trip the next day, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the other kids broke the equipment for the athletic festival and were polishing fervently, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the teacher was reading a fun picture book, she wasn't smiling. And even if they all got to eat a delicious bento, only she wasn't happy. If it was only this, it still would have been in the realm of understanding. However, what I don't understand about my child is that if the aforementioned situations happened again, they now act in a manner befitting their age.
I see.
I don't understand the principle behind that as a parent. Why were they indifferent about the field trip but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that picture book but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that bento but happy about this one? The former and the later in each situation seem exactly the same to me. It was even when I thought the former one was better. I don't understand that child's feelings. During the parent-teacher meetings, the teacher always says the same thing. And I would always respond that I don't understand my own child and we work together. My husband, always the optimist, once said that a young child's feelings are different than that of an adult. So if there were some things we didn't understand, we shouldn't worry about it. I lament his lack of urgency. One day, when I was in a good mood, I took the effort to prepare a menu that my child would enjoy. But she only smiled with a vague expression of disinterest. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. One day, on a day when the weather was nice, the laundry I had hung up to dry was blown by by a large gust of wind, causing the entire line to fall down. But she, watching me trying to pick up the laundry in a panic, stood there laughing. The attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. I think the same sort of thing happened countless times. Before I knew it, my child was only able to look at me with indifferent expression on her face. I regret the fact that I've become a bad mother. Thinking I should regain her trust, I thought to get it back little by little with some light interactions. Seeing her do some sort of craft work on the veranda, I called out to her. These past few days have been nice and sunny. Yes, feels nice, doesn't it? The child, with a different look on her face I hated so much, looked up to me for a moment, then, without a word, returned to immersing herself in the craft work. Up until now, I would have hit her on the head just for that.
Wow, what a bitch.
Yeah.
What are you making? Is it a doll? A weather charm. That child was using inserts from the newspaper to definitely make some weather charms. The forecast hadn't called for rain, but that child, in her own way, was praying that these sunny days would continue. Being able to understand my own child for the first time in a while, I couldn't hide my own happiness. Picking out a ball of yarn, I began to hang my child's cute weather charms from the eaves of the house. It's no good, Rika. The heads are too heavy. See? They become a reverse weather charms now. If they're like this, they'll call the rain instead of the sun. When I started to take them down, my child tugged at the hem of my skirt as if to stop me. That's because I made them to be upside down. They're fine. But Rika, if they're upside down, they won't be able to charm that calls for a sunny day, you know.
I was making a charm for it to rain, so they're fine. I desperately suppressed the emotions welling inside of me. I was desperately trying to understand my child. Oh, I see. The morning glories and the sun were starting to get a little wilted from all the sun, so you wanted some rain, right? That child turned to me with the expression that I hated the most. I got bored of the clear weather. I don't understand. I don't understand. I just can't understand that child.
So what are you saying
Well,
about David?
I don't know. I have a theory that's kind of brewing in my head.
Go on.
So, theory.
Mm-hmm.
Something is causing the time loop in Hinamizawa.
Mm-hmm.
Rika doesn't want to die. And Rika is potentially maybe the like reincarnation of Oyashirasama or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows she's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
The time loop is Rika basically trying over and over again to basically Rika trying over and over again to live.
Mm-hmm.
To find a way towards said conclusion. Towards a conclusion that's not one that she's foreseen.
Mm-hmm. And so through this she is...
Through this, she is... What do you mean through this?
Or like what we just read.
Oh. I have no fucking clue.
Like we just heard her, we just seen like her mother not knowing, understanding, like she's so bored constantly.
Oh, because she knows what's going to happen.
And she keeps doing things to not be bored.
Mm-hmm. And to try and make things happen that aren't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably. Oh.
Like those little moments where something different slightly happens, she gets excited about. Because it's something she hasn't seen before. So it means that something has changed. And that not every single timeline is exactly the fucking same over and over and over again.
Which also, because I was kind of mulling about this earlier today, because Rika is the one whose personality changes the most between timeline loops. So I was kind of thinking even before, like, she started prophesying for us. Like, she's definitely the one, she's definitely aware of the different loops. Even in the future. Which kind of, I think, points towards her being at least involved in the cause. I don't know.
Good observation.
I think this is I think this is on the right track. I think this is better than whatever it was with Oyashirasama being part of the Higurashi.
Part 2.
You want me to continue, Flip?
Sure, unless you want me to.
Okay. During the family council, she buried herself under Oryo-san's futon again. Oryo-san dotes on her unwaveringly. No matter what insolence my child commits, she doesn't mind. It's almost as though my child is a kitten or something. Oryo dotes on her exactly like you would with a kitten. As her mother, I chided her for doing that. Until Oryo-san said 3 times that it was fine. I chided her as a formality. Of course, she never lends an ear to any of my chidings. Knowing that Oyo-san's standing was far above mine, she behaves like that. I don't like the cunning that's unbefitting of her age either. In any case, not only Oyo-san, but the rest of the old folk in the village spoil her too much. One day, I was surprised. By chance, on the way back from some shopping, I saw her by herself just outside a candy shop. My own child suddenly grabbed a snack, opened the package right then and there, and started eating it. She didn't make any attempt to pay for it, and she didn't even think of looking around.
I didn't feel like she was shoplifting either. More like she was basically eating snacks that was offered to her. When I began to admonish my child, the elderly shop owner appeared and covered for her. The owner gave the ridiculous excuse that he had said it was okay for that child to eat any of the snacks out by the entrance. So it was fine. When I tried to pay for the snacks that my child had eaten, the owner refused my money. During that exchange, more old folks had suddenly gathered around and began to feel like I was the one in the wrong. The elderly couple all put their hands together reverently in front of my child and repeatedly voiced their respects. I was born in the Furude family, so it wasn't like I didn't know why she was treated so specially. When I was still young, it was something I heard often from my grandmother. If by chance the child I gave birth to was a girl, that girl would be the living incarnation of Oyashirasama. All the older folk believe that she's a living incarnation of Oyashirasama. Spoil her rotten. Not only did they spoil her, but they even told her that she was the living incarnation of Oyashirasama. That she had divine power, and threw all sorts of strange folk tales her way. So she may have begun to believe herself that she was a special existence. Went around and told everybody that it wasn't good for her upbringing, so to stop telling her all these strange things. But there was no one rooting these elderly people's deep-seated superstitions. I told my child not to listen to them, but it ended up being that she stopped listening to me. Between all the old folks in the village who would dote on her and myself who only scolded her, it was no wonder who she would listen to. There's no mistaking that the reason she had become strange was because of the elderly villagers. There's no doubt that they had shoved her full of strange folk tales and superstitions since she was young. If it wasn't for that, there'd be no doubt my child would have been cute and normal.
Uh,
Right.
well, part 3.
So here's the thing that's still bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
If Rika's the incarnation of Oyashirasama,
Mm-hmm.
and people know that,
Mhm.
why do they want to kill her?
I mean, they said it at the end of the last chapter. It doesn't make sense. Or it
Yeah.
seems opposed to that.
Mhm. One sunny
It seems to not be
parent-teacher
related.
day.
Come to think of it, we never see who killed her, do we?
Nope.
Never.
Rika's death always happens off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We don't know who. Well, but sometimes we don't even know why or how.
And she doesn't know why either. Or who.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cooking class, and my child was making curry rice with a practiced hand. While the other children her age were awkwardly using their kitchen knives, and that child was wielding hers deftly. The teacher approached me with a smile on her face, saying it must be a result of learning it at home. I managed to play it off with a vague smile and nod in response. That was because I had never once taught my child how to make curry rice. Then she was peeling vegetables with a practiced hand, adding them to the pot in the order which took longer to cook. For a normal parent, they might unintentionally clap their hands together, happy at the child's action. But in my case, it was different. There was no mistaking that someone had taught her how to make curry rice when I wasn't taking care of her. Thinking that, I quietly fell into an unpleasant mood. When I asked, it seemed like she could also sew and do the laundry. I never taught her how to do those, and again, never saw her do it around the house. Be it cooking, or sewing, or the laundry. Again, that was probably because the elderly villagers taught her all sorts of rubbish when I wasn't looking. And not only that, they probably taught her all sorts of strange superstitions, trying to prop her up as the living incarnation of Oyashirasama.
They're making Oyashiro-sama cook and do laundry and make curry rice.
Yep. I said as much to my husband, suggesting that we should keep our child away from the elderly folk. But my husband, who was in the position of being the head priest of the Furude Shrine, had little power against the elderly who supported it. He took the rather uncommitted stance of saying that as long as she was being doted upon, wasn't it fine? argued against that. That she was our child, and should be a completely normal girl. It was the elderly expecting that she was some living incarnation of Oyashirasama. Simply odd. The elderly villagers believed that child had divine powers. We would discuss the weather for the following day, but there were many times where I left the house without an umbrella and came back soaking wet. Rather than having clairvoyance, that was just a secondhand knowledge from her watching the news all the time, things that she knew that she shouldn't have known were just a result of people who were trying to indoctrinate her, and the people who were gossiping getting together in the village. However, there certainly was some days when everybody thought it was going to be sunny all day, and the child would simply not go out without an umbrella. It would occasionally rain, and in the end, would be saved. There might have been also a few times where Rika knew of major accidents in foreign countries faster than the news did. Thought that she must have heard it break over the radio or something. Knowing things she shouldn't have. Something like that. It was in front of me right now, wasn't it? That child was making curry rice when there shouldn't have been anybody taught her how to. No. That couldn't possibly be the case. Somebody had taught her, indoctrinated her, when I wasn't taking care of her. Somebody had indoctrinated Rika with something. Yes, cooking and laundry.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
What?
For today's curry is absolutely splendid. I'll give it a gold star.
Nippa.
Where did you learn to cook for today, Son? At home?
Yes, at home. The other parents in attendance were impressed. Lies. All lies. I didn't teach her anything. Who was it? Who was it? Who was the person who completely indoctrinated my child? She was my normal, average daughter, not the living incarnation of Oyashirasama.
Da-da-da! Achievement unlocked,
Oh.
Detective Himatsubushi.
So that's all the tips for this arc.
Wait, that's it?
What
Well, it's
is
not-
save?
Which I guess means that this is probably our last chapter coming up.
I believe so. Let's go for it.
Intriguing. Let's go.
Da-da-da!
Maybe we can find out what this extremely ominous last achievement. Oh! We're in 1985 now.
Hoo-hoo.
Wait, so that's two. So 1985 is 2 years after Keiichi comes to Hinamizawa, right?
I believe so, yeah.
From the timeline Rika just mentioned. Okay, interesting.
Interesting.
Sir, we're preparing to land. Excuse me, but will you please fasten your seatbelt?
It seemed I had fallen fast asleep inside the plane. I finally awoken from my slumber by the stewardess. I only had carry-on luggage on top of it being a domestic flight, so the time between disembarking and entering the lobby was, well, non-existent. Arriving at the lobby, I glanced around looking for a cab. I was met with a familiar gruff voice calling out to me.
Akasaka-san! How many years has it been? It's been a while, hasn't it? Akab-san, it really has been a long time.
A-Cap clapped his hands down on my shoulder, celebrating our reunion.
Akasaka-san, you're looking pretty good. You look like a bona fide frontline investigator now. You're looking quite dapper yourself. Your posture seems a lot better. Is the ballroom dancing paying off? You should give it a try while you're still young. You'd be a hit with the ladies. A real babe magnet.
A-Cap had retired and moved to Sapporo. And of all the things, I started talking about ballroom dancing lessons. He apparently gotten really into it and decided to spend the rest of his new life devoted to that hobby. He was aiming to get his instructor's qualifications before he hit 80 and live out his old age dandily. And myself into ACAB's car, and we headed out towards the Hot Spring Inn.
Hold that thought.
Hmm?
Did Oishi retire just after? Is
No.
Oishi the one?
Hmm?
If Oishi okay, continue. We need more information.
Like, we learned at least in one of the
I
earlier...
want to know your train of thought here. You're only giving me, like, not even a quarter of your thought here.
Like,
Okay,
we
so-
learned...
continue.
Saying we learned in one of the earlier chapters that he was close to retirement.
Yes, we
Mhm.
did.
Mhm.
If Oishi retires after the murders in 1983, whoever dies in this timeline, Okay, so if Oishi retires after that happens, we never see Oishi on screen in the second act around when Rika dies. Oishi's technically not native to Hinamizawa.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Oishi might be the one who murders Rika. And
I
kinda
thought that
kicks
like
this whole
3
thing
chapters
off.
ago.
Yeah, but now we might actually be getting a sense of why he's doing it. Because there has to be something that fucks with. Oh, let's continue onwards.
Because his personality changes dramatically every line too.
I don't know if it does. So we
What
see,
we see as his personality changes.
right, but so Oishi's basically the same for the first 2, right?
I think so.
More
Kind of
or
like... Well,
less?
no. Because the first one is when he's really nice to Keiichi, and the second one is when we get him and Shion, and then he gets all, like, up in their faces about it, tries to get him to do and say things.
Oh, that's
He gets
true.
more aggressive. And then he gets rude in the next one.
Well, he gets rude in the next one because Keiichi starts outright defying him.
Yes, but still.
Okay. Thought the second regarding time loops. If Oishi is, like we're kind of looking at right now, getting kind of angrier as as we keep looping, then potentially he's the one murdering Rika and getting frustrated because he also remembers and can't get Rika's death to stick, basically. But the time loop seems... But the time loop's contingent on Keiichi dying. Why is it dependent on him dying? Because we see so far into the future on the third one when he's the only one who survives.
And then dies.
Yeah. And then when he dies, we reset. Or we presumably reset. I guess we haven't seen yet.
True.
I don't know.
At the end, we relaxed while soaking in the hot springs, reminiscing about the time we played Mahjong together in Hinamazawa. Why are you such good friends? You literally met like one time.
Yeah.
Like 5 years back. What?
I don't know, man. I think you mentioned at the start of this arc that he was,
Well, yes, but it's a literally reunion. You haven't seen each other in years.
Yes, that they hadn't seen each other in years, and that's Oishi's like his only friend, big quotes.
What the heck?
Well.
It seemed that to celebrate our reunion, ACAB had looked for people who could play. But in order to find a suitable candidate, we had to give up putting together a table. As we drank together, we excitedly recounted our exploits during the final manhunt.
Did they end up catching those 2 guys?
Hey!
Kimono Oishi.
Nice.
That's not something I expected. With a big ass pearl necklace.
He's retired after all.
Nope. In the end, the search team never found them. They were probably hidden by the villagers, then sent overseas or somewhere else far away to lay low for a bit. Oishi, if I remember correctly, you managed to grab one of their guns, didn't you? Did you learn anything from that? Is that what he's got his hand on in his kimono right now?
God.
Is that a gun, or are you just happy to see me?
Wee.
It's a Chinese-made military pistol. It's probably from the ones the gangs in Kansai managed to smuggle in a ton of. Tried to get a match from the rifling, but it didn't show up in any other cases. How about on your end? After that, I was removed from the front lines, so I don't know much. In the end, it seems like everything was settled under the veil of secrecy. But what happened to your wife?
Yeah, where's your child?
Rika seemed to imply that if you didn't leave Hinamizawa tonight, something was really bad going to happen to you, and or them. And that hasn't paid off yet.
Hmm.
He kept smiled wryly as he sipped his chilled drink of sake.
Happened after that. Sure was tough, huh? This'll be 7 years now. Yeah. We held the
Oh.
memorial service a few days ago. I've become estranged with my father-in-law lately, so it was rough getting everything ready. That must have been a lot of work.
It was then that the hostess brought in the extra drinks that we had ordered before. Although bottles of beer clinked as she brought them in, it halted our conversation. What Akab meant when he said he must have been tough, thinking about it was still hard, but time had healed the wound. It was the day after, when I phoned Akab to apologize. When I did, Akab almost immediately handed the phone to one of my colleagues who happened to be there. Not only was I injured in the brawl with suspects, but I had disappeared to drink late into night without leaving any sort of contact information, so I thought he'd definitely be mad. However, all he said he couldn't talk about over the phone and that I should come to the station as soon as possible. At that time, I could only think that he must have been really pissed off. But when I arrived at the station, he said this.
Seems your wife was involved in an accident.
I have no idea what happened. I borrowed the phone to contact the hospital Yukie was staying at. I've been given the runaround several times. I was finally able to talk to someone in charge, and after mincing words for some time, they told me.
Yuki Akasaka was killed in an accident.
The world became a blur as I sat there dumbfounded. Yukie's death was unbelievably abrupt, unbelievably sudden. I could have understood if there was some kind of problem during the birth, but Yukie's death wasn't anything like that. On the stairs on the way up to the roof, she just happened to slip and fall. She just happened to fall in an unfortunate place at an unfortunate angle. That was it. Wanting to blame Yukie's death on somebody, I began to think that it was all an act of revenge by the Defense Alliance. That they killed my wife and made it look like an accident. What I learned when I flew back to Tokyo, however, was much more cruel than that. Yukie had a habit of going up to the roof to cool off in the evening. There was an elevator up to the 7th floor, but from there you had to take the stairs to get to the roof. Even late in her pregnancy, when the evening came, she would always head up there. Her father had always said for her not to push herself, but he insisted that until the time she had no choice to stay in bed, she would be allowed to do as she wished. However, I had never once seen Yukie go up to the roof. I only heard that from her father and the nurses. That was because whenever I visited her, she would spend that time with me instead. Or the reason why Yukie went up to the roof from a nurse was she had become friendly with. She said that her husband was away on business a lot of the time, and that whenever he called, she was able to cheer him up and give him courage. But when he didn't call, she couldn't do that. Her husband might put on a show of bravado, but in reality, he grew lonesome pathetically fast. She was probably just the same. Whenever he left for business, not clear when he'd be back, she felt very lonely. She cheered him up, and she was actually cheering herself up as well. That's why, whenever he went far away for an important job, on evenings he didn't call, at the very least, I felt that standing underneath the same sky, her feelings would reach him. At that moment, I remembered the words the girls had told me. It was best if I back to Tokyo right away. Otherwise, there would be something I would regret horribly. Yes, that's it. Because I was away on business that day. Yuki had headed up to the roof. Had I known that this had been the result, had I done as the girl had said and dropped everything to head back to Tokyo, I might have been with Yuki on the day she died. If I was with her, she wouldn't have gone up to the roof. The day my wife died was on the evening of the third day of my trip. Yes, it was right before the time I had sudden urge to hear Yuki's voice and ran around the village trying to find a phone. The girl had gone around and cut up all the phone cords. If she hadn't, and I had made that call, I would have inevitably learned of Yuki's death at the time and collapsed in tears. Of course, even the cords were cut, and it only put me off learning Yuki's death by one evening. In the end, I learned it the next morning. However, when I managed to put my emotions in order, I realized it was the girl's small token of consideration.
That's the first I've heard about that. Yeah. It's the first time I've talked about it. Could it have been a coincidence? She doesn't have any special powers or anything. Aren't you the one who told me, Akop-san? That she might be the reincarnation of the god called Oyashirasama? Well, yeah. The old folks in the village believed that Rika Furude had divine powers. Divine powers?
Ikab originally said it was as some kind of joke, but realizing I was serious, he slumped his shoulders.
I don't know if it's the truth or not. They said she did things like prophesize the future, or talk about things she should have no way of knowing. That she was clairvoyant, that it was divine revelation. Well, all sorts of things. Of course, they couldn't give specific examples, though. She prophesied Yuki's accident, or Yuki's accident.
Ikab tried to laugh it off, but out of respect to my deceased wife, he kept it restrained.
Does that mean an active and capable investigator from the Metropolitan Police Department believes in divine powers and curses?
Him say that so bluntly, I couldn't respond. Of course, I had no intention of believing such odd things, but you could only say that because you didn't know what I did. Since I met that other girl, who both was and wasn't Rika Furude, couldn't deny the existence of any otherworldly entity.
Of course, I can't deny that it might not have been prescience, but rather a warning.
A prescience, but a warning. If what that girl had said was a warning about Yuki's accident, things became much easier to understand. Based on the line of thinking that because that it was a threat, because I didn't go back to Tokyo, my wife was killed in an accident in a way that made it look like an accident.
Not satisfied with the investigation into your wife's accident? Of course, I suspected foul play. I pored over the results and even carried out my own personal investigation.
There wasn't any witnesses to Yuki's fall. It was a possibility that someone had hidden, waiting to push Yuki down the stairs. However, the cleaning ladies frequented the roof to hang laundry. The security cameras on each floor had recorded anything out of the ordinary. There wasn't anything set up on the stairs, and I was unable to find anything suspicious.
In the end, even after my personal investigation, I can't think that anything else happened other than a simple accident. Well, of course, these were the guys who took the minister's grandson hostage. Wouldn't be impossible for them to push a lone pregnant woman down the stairs without leaving any evidence.
Akab's expression had completely sobered up.
They murdered Your wife?
When Yuki died, I thought that as well. Precisely, I wanted to blame somebody, so I created the most viable scapegoat. Without any clear evidence, that violent notion faded along with the wounds in my heart.
Did that girl know beforehand about my wife's death and was threatening me? Or did she prophesize that death and was offering me a road to salvation? If I had to choose between the two, I would tend towards the latter.
Akab smiled slightly in disbelief as he poured over more beer from his bottle.
Then, if I may, if what you say is true, then Rika Furude was a prophet who knew the future. If so, why didn't she predict that disaster? She knew that the gas eruption was going to happen, then why did she remain silent? Even a few hours beforehand would have been enough. The village knew that most of the people would have escaped without dying. Ooh, rip.
It was near the end of June 1983. The Great Hinamaji Disaster in Memoriam list. Volcanic gases from the Onogufuchi swamp erupted and hit the village in the middle of the night. It's an unprecedented disaster where the whole populace had been wiped out. It caused a wave of panic about volcanic gas across the country, causing people to overact over any reports of odd smells. I hadn't heard of the blockade on the Hinamizawa area being lifted, so it should be still cordoned off.
Hinamizawa becomes the Silent Hill of
Yeah, sounds like.
Why?
That's...
It's my turn to be lost for a response.
Well, if Rika Furude, the reincarnation of Oyashirasama, was killed, then the village might have incurred the god's wrath, making him call forth the miasma from the swamp to kill everybody. That explanation is what the survivors are whispering about. Isn't there only one survivor? It's Keiichi?
I thought so. Yeah.
Maybe, well, I mean, was Keiichi and anyone that was like actually like outside of the village at the time?
Sorry, Oishi. Did you just say she was killed? Huh? Ah, yeah. Well, I don't think it would be a problem if I told you.
When I saw the news about the gas disaster, I remembered that girl. I then found her name in the list of victims. That's why, at the time, I thought her own death she had predicted was due to the gas. It was after that I learned from the tabloids of the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamazawa during the 5 years leading up to the disaster that had become known as the Curse of Oyashirasama. And that string of mysterious deaths lined up exactly with what the girl had predicted, so I'd always thought to ask Akab about it, as he had been involved in the investigation. That's right. That was the reason for our reunion. But right now, Akab had said, Rika Furude didn't die in the disaster, but was killed?
Oops. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Can I ask you about the last year of the curse? I may be retired, but I still have to keep things confidential, you know? Excuse me, madam. Do you have anything cold that's brewed locally? High grade, if there is. I'll leave the selection to you. Oh my, I didn't mean it that way.
Akab laughed loudly, not wholly unsatisfied, and stopped the hostess to tell her that cheap booze was fine.
I know as much as was written in those magazines, but I don't know anything about the curse that happened the year of the disaster. Because the entire area around Hinamizawa was sealed off, you see. There wasn't much of an investigation that could be done in the last year of the curse. Even after several years, the quarantine
Oh,
is
I think it's the other
lifted.
way around.
Is it?
I think so. I know as much as
Oh.
was written in those
Yeah,
magazines.
that's fair. The villagers are mostly dead, and what few survivors there were mostly went to stay with relatives. Their whereabouts mostly unknown. It's a complete dead end.
ACAP seemed to postulate to himself as he stared at the ceiling, as if trying to work out a memory from the rusty cogs in his head. Then he said in a completely sober voice,
The magazines made it seem like the curse of the 5th year was that disaster. But the actual curse really happened on the day of the Tanagashi Festival. A photographer by the name of Hot Photographer. He was the victim.
ACAB gestured about how the victim tore out his own throat with his fingernails as he talked.
And the burnt corpse of the woman Hot was in a relationship with was found in the mountains in Gifu. The Gifu prefectural police weren't very cooperative, so I don't know much about it, though. There were 2 victims. Okay. Other thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has been bugging me as another thing.
Uh-huh.
So the whole curse thing, one of them is supposed to get taken away to be like ritualistically tortured and like killed by the implements in the warehouse, right? In the Sonozaki house. That's the deal.
That's at least what people think.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, that's what Crazy Mion implied in Arc 2. So if Hot Photographer or if Creepy Girlfriend is the other victim, why'd she get burned alive? And well, because like it's supposed to be an offering to the demons or whatever the fuck. I don't know. It's been too long since we played Arc 2. But they're supposed to be. If they're supposed to be like slowly murdered and tortured and what have you, then why'd she get burned alive the same night? And how sure are we that it's her? Given that this is the 80s and DNA evidence is much less of a thing.
Yep, this is the 80s.
The Gifu police are being uncooperative.
No, sorry.
So maybe Takano's the murderer. Because, like, Oishi kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I can kind of... Like, Oishi does change personality, but it's also kind of... He changes personality in relation to how people treat him in that arc and how Keiichi's acting in a given arc. He's not changing personality out of the blue. He's always approaching Keiichi in the same way. He's always kind of... Between this arc and the last one, there's like that creepy rumor that they spread about him in Arc 3, but I think that's a red herring. And it kind of needs to be someone who... Like, whoever's sneaking around behind the scenes and murdering Rika all the time kind of needs to be somebody who can be unseen. And Oishi is not that.
Very true, very true.
So I think it's Takano. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that her burning to death is fake. And that, based on what we know right now, that her burning to death is fake. That the Gifu police covered for it for whatever the fuck reason. And something in that notebook of hers is pushing her towards murdering Oyashirasama, aka Rika. And Hot Photographer is kind of just collateral damage to that.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Sorry for kind of
No,
digressing.
no,
here.
no. No, this is good. This is very
Oh,
good.
I like it. I like it.
This is what we're here to do.
Actually,
Hypothesize.
see, wasn't just those two. See, the next day, Kuma-chan, one of my subordinates, disappeared along with his car in the middle of his investigation. Wait, he did? What? I don't remember hearing about that.
We haven't been seeing it from his perspective.
That's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Tom was a younger
Oishi kind of
detective.
just... Yeah, Oishi kind of just vanished at the end of Arc 3, right?
I think so, yeah.
He, like, we had no clue where he went. He, like, beat up Keiichi when he was digging for that corpse in the rain. But then after that, he kind of just fucking disappeared.
Like,
So
see ya
we-
now, bye.
Yeah, so we have no clue what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kuma-chan was a younger detective that was going to be partnered with ACAB after we first met.
Going around the village to question people about the incident with Hot Sun. He might have gotten caught up in something. If he was with me, he might have been safe. Even now, it still stings. That day, for some reason, I did a real number on my stomach. I had to pass on going around outside. He got too close to the truth and was made to disappear? That's what I think. Kuma-chan was young and had a promising future ahead of him, but he still didn't have enough experience on the scene. He wasn't used to dealing with any complications.
ACAB lamented the fact that he wasn't with his subordinate that day.
And then the next day, see, you know him as well, Akasaka-san. You know, Dr. Ivan. You remember him? The young doctor from the hospital? I vaguely remember. For whatever reason, he committed suicide with sleeping pills. No suicide note or anything. Autopsy confirmed that it was the sleeping pills. Nothing was in doubt except for the motive. Isn't that hard to make somebody make it look like somebody died from taking sleeping pills, is it? Oh, it's raining. Fuck yeah. Any possibility it was a murder? He was single, no prior marriages. Didn't seem like he was going out with anybody in particular. He was the coach of the local junior baseball team and was on good terms with the villagers. He was liked by everybody. I couldn't find anybody who would want to do him harm.
Kichi.
Well, any chances to investigate were ruined by the disaster, though. No way to find out anything about him now. Then what about Rika Furude's death? It was the day of. Around noon, some of the old folks who were visiting the shrine discovered the corpse of Rika Furude. Murder? Before we continue, you should probably stop eating that squid salmon.
Oh, God.
That bad?
ACAB nodded firmly.
Mm-hmm.
He says as I'm eating a cookie and my entire dinner during
Have fun.
this.
Corpse was found on the shrine grounds next to the donation box. Although she was probably killed somewhere else. That's because while she was completely naked, there wasn't any dirt on the soles of her feet. Any sign it was some sort of sexual assault? According to the autopsy, there wasn't any indication of that. Ooh.
Yeah.
All we know is that she was rendered unconscious by some sort of drug, carried to that place, then had her abdomen sliced wide open. Her organs were deliberately removed and scattered about. Unconscious? Then she wasn't cut open after her death? That's horrible.
The girl's prediction was right on the mark. I'm pretty sure she was more detailed about the other deaths that lead up to her own. For example, I think she said the housewife had been beaten to death, and the fourth year had her head split open. Then in that case, did she know that her own death would be so terrible? There must have been some moments where she wanted to doubt the validity of her own predictions. But as people died exactly as prophesied, as the years passed, that prophecy would only come closer to fruition. Then facing that final year, and able to struggle against her own destiny, her all too young life was snuffed out. And in such a cool way. Knowing that her days were numbered and unable to fight against the tides of event heralding her end, my heart ached at her helplessness.
About the way she died. Seems like it wasn't just somebody's sick tastes. What I'm saying is, I've told you before about how Hinamizawa used to be home to demons, didn't I? Yeah, I think I remember. Festival in Hinamizawa, Watanagashi, the cotton drift, seems to stem from the drifting of entrails. It seems that it came from the man-eating demons ripping apart the victims and throwing their organs into the river. In other words, in Hinamizawa, pulling out entrails had some sort of religious meaning? Well, this is according to the old tales in Hinamizawa, you see. It acted as an arbitrator so that the humans and the man-eating demons could live together peacefully. A god known as Oyashirasama descended from the heavens. If I recall, Rika Furude was said to be the living incarnation of that Oyashirasama, wasn't she? Yeah. So, cutting open Rika Furude, who was a living god, would be to the village nothing less than absolute sacrilege. Absolute sacrilege. In other words, you mean sacrilege towards Oyashiro-sama? The rest you should know, Akasaka-san. The wrath of Oyashiro-sama would occur later that night. The Great Hinamizawa Disaster.
The official explanation is that swamp gas upstream exploded the toxic volcanic gas which enveloped the village.
Swamp, where was it? One sec. Sorry, one sec.
Okay. I'll take over. The swamp bird erupted was called Onikafuchi Swamp. It was the origin of Hinamizawa's old name, Onikafuchi Village. According to village lore, the depths of the swamp apparently led to hell, where the man-eating demons came from. That almost seems too perfect. Oh, no, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There was another bit of folklore in the village. If Oyashiro-sama became angry, the cauldron of hell would open up and miasma would flow out. Or so they say.
I don't remember that one from our last Oyashiro-sama lore dump. To the villagers, hell was at the bottom of the swamp. So basically the miasma poured out, smothering the village. Yeah. Basically, due to the sacrilegious way that Rika Furude, the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was killed, the village incurred the wrath of Oyashiro-sama in the form of that disaster. That seems to be their explanation. So what you're saying is that the disaster wasn't a natural one? Well, everything does seem to fit together a little too well. If Oyashiro-sama's curse doesn't really exist and everything really was just a matter of coincidence, I would doubt it.
A wry smile formed on Akab's face as he listened to my absurd take on things. It wore an expression as though, even if it were absurd, there was a time he had thought the same thing as well.
In regards to the religious beliefs of the villagers, suppose there was a more fanatical following among them. And that group created a situation that would incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath, and enacted the disaster to make it seem like the truth. Of course, I won't laugh. I've wandered down that line of reasoning more than once myself. However, even though Hinamizawa is a small village, it still has a population of over 1,000 people. To murder that many people in a single night doesn't seem realistic, no matter how you think about it.
The gas eruption was believed to happen around 2 a.m., several hours before dawn, in a short amount of time, going around and killing all the villagers in a way that made it seem like poison gas didn't seem feasible at all.
The swamp the gas erupted from still had some religious significance, didn't it? If that's the case, then maybe there was something set up in the swamp. Something that could be activated whenever a divine verdict was rendered. According to the JSDF press release, the swamp was declared the source of the eruption. This was after everything was thoroughly looked over by their investigative team. Anything like that was set up, I think they would have found it. It wouldn't necessarily have to be in the swamp itself. Come on, haven't you ever heard about it? The old story about how when a faraway spring dried up, the village spring dried up as well. What do you mean by that? Many waterways are connected by underground aquifers. Swamps and springs are only the parts that manage to pop up above the surface. So what you're saying is that Onigafuji Swamp is connected to another swamp or spring. There's something the villagers rigged up there long ago. Something that changes the pressure of Onigafuji Swamp, causing it to erupt with poison gas. Is that what you're getting at?
ACAB laughed heartedly, commending the fact that the youngins must have a flexible way of thinking. That was the former detective in him. Even though it was a hypothesis that he didn't come up with, he still had the presence of mind to not dismiss it right away.
It's an interesting theory. If that proves to be true, then it would be unprecedentedly the largest mass murder in the history of Japan. Once the quarantine on Hinamizawa village is lifted, I think it should definitely be investigated. Hey, Capson, do you still have any connections with the prefectural police? Somewhat. I'm an honorary advisory for their judo classes, so even now I pop by during summer training camps and such. I don't know when the quarantine on Hinamizawa village will be lifted, but please, let me help investigate. Got it. Hey, Capson, how do you feel about the string of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa they call the Curse of Oyashirasama? At the time, the villagers were putting a lot of pressure on the station. The official stance on things was that the cases were unrelated. That each case was separate, each with its own resolution. That couldn't be, even though it was blatantly obvious that the cases were connected based on the village's religious beliefs. Akasaka-san, we can only say that now because of the rather grandiose way things ended after 5 years. At the time, those coincidental incidents just happened to coincidentally occur on the day of Watanagashi. It would be nice if nothing happened this year, kind of feel to it. Coincidence? The girl predicted everything from the beginning. Girl. Rika Furude. That child warned me about all the incidents that would happen afterwards. Akasaka-san, is that true? Yes, the girl said as much. That the next year the damn foreman would be killed. That damn foreman! His corpse dismembered. Not only that, she warned me of all the events that would transpire in the following years. Akasaka-san, when she told you all of that, what year was it? When I met the girl, I was investigating the kidnapping incident. So June of 1978. The year before the dismemberment murder.
Wrinkles formed between Acab's eyebrows as he closed his eyes and began to digest what I had just told him.
Akasaka-san, you're wrong about Rika Furude knowing the future through some divine medium. This is getting ridiculous. Yep. You're just trying to shock me. I'm gonna be really angry, you know? I'm speaking the truth. And the script behind the chain of mysterious deaths was written a year before it even started. And, just as predicted, Rika Furade was killed. First, I thought she meant that she would be killed in the disaster. However, now I know that her death wasn't due to that, but rather an atrocious one at the hands of a murderer. She said she would be killed. At that point in time, she knew more or less how her own death would occur. Then why didn't Rika Furade not try and run away? Even if her death was already spelled out for her. Knowing that, she still had a grace period of several years, didn't she? She had plenty of time to try and run away and insult the police. Why did she just accept her death with no resistance? I don't know. Even though Rika Furade was doted upon by the older folks in the village, you see. After she lost her parents, she had no living relatives, and lived a fairly solitary life other than hanging around with some close friends. It might have been that she didn't have any power to fight or anybody to rely on. She must have tried signaling somebody for help in regards to her own death, though. You know very well that the village and the police weren't very amicable with each other, Amasaka-san. She did try signaling somebody. She signaled you. At the very least, I never heard anything about Rika Furude seeking protection from anybody. Or could it be that she simply resigned herself to being a religious sacrifice? It could have been something like that.
He doesn't remember the riddle that she gave him. The little stone in the water.
There's no way that was the case.
At the time she said it. She definitely said that she wanted to live happily, that she wanted to spend her time surrounded by her dear friends. She hadn't given up on life. She had hoped to keep on living. At that moment, I became dumbstruck.
What's the matter? Akasaka-san? No, it's nothing.
I fell into silence. He kept folded his arms and began murmuring in contemplation again. Eventually he stood up and headed toward the hallway to find the hostess, telling her that he wanted a pen and paper. When Acab, nosy even though he was just thinking, left, the room immediately fell into a chilled silence. I stood up, and it was then I realized that I was drunk enough to be unsteady on my feet. I stood up in the window, and a beautiful yet somehow ephemeral moon drifted across the night sky. It was just now that I realized she hadn't accepted her own death. She wanted to keep on living, happily and joyously. She said that quite clearly to me. But I was a fool. I hadn't been asked explicitly, so I hadn't realized it. She had made clear as day that she didn't want to die. Wasn't that her cry for help? She didn't say as much she wanted help. But even given that, it wasn't as though she was looking for salvation. That I am family and I'm able to trust the police. She just told somebody without any relation to the village. Somebody from a faraway place. Me. Help me. She had gone around and cut the phone cords. If I made the phone call and learned of Yuki's death, I probably would have fallen into despair. If I was in that state, even if she was looking for help, her cries would have fallen on deaf ears. That's why. Knowing everything, she had cut the phone cords. She wanted even a little time to seek help for me. Acab, just before now, had lamented that one of the younger officers got mixed up in a case. Had been erased because he wasn't there. I was feeling the same way. If only I was there in June of 1983. I could have protected her. In 1983, it would have been 5 years since the kidnapping took place. While I was raising my only daughter, Yuki had left me, putting all my youth and passion into my work, honing my wits and courage, wrestling with difficult cases. Nothing like my failings during the kidnapping accident would have occurred.
would have been slow to react in a one-on-one fight, and I, by that point, jumped into a foreign mafia-run gambling parlors, where I learned how to deal with automatic weapons, let alone handguns. Grown so much that in 1983, I couldn't have been even compared to how it was in 1978. That's why, if I was by her side, I should have been able to save her life. No matter what conspiracy or foul plots drew near, I definitely would have protected her. She, even though she sounded resigned, would have still been able to ask me for help. I just didn't realize it. I couldn't realize it. Just as I couldn't have realized if I told you of Yuki's incident, I wasn't able to realize it. I wanted to cry. If I'd taken her words to heart, I would have prevented Yuki's accident.
Hey, Phoebe.
And I would have been able to protect the girl to whom I owed a debt from even a predetermined death. She must have been expecting that from me. I learned about the disaster while watching television in my house. To learn about that, I had forgotten about Hinamazawa. In order to recover from the shock of Yuki's death, I had tried to remove everything about that place from my memory. What an ungrateful fool I was. Even though, in exchange for saving her, the girl had told me a way to save Yuki, was I unable to accept her gratitude. And now, here we were. She hadn't died in her sleep due to a natural disaster. She was split open while still alive, killed while suffering the disgrace of having her organs torn out. She must have known beforehand, but on the day of that year, she would have been killed in such a terrifying way. But even knowing what end waited her, she was all too weak. A lone girl without anybody to rely on, unable to seek help, to swallow her own predetermined death, and left this mortal coil.
That makes double sense when you consider her mom's diaries.
Mm-hmm.
She said she wanted to live. She said she just wanted to live happily. That's all she wanted. She didn't ask for anything extravagant. For any person that was ever born, it was the very basis of desires. She never said a peep about wanting money, or that she wished she was in somebody else's situation. She had said it, that if all the deaths are preordained, then hers were probably also all according to plan. She might have been a lone, frail girl, but I don't think she would have accepted it without at least putting up a fight.
Happiness in this economy sounds pretty extravagant to me.
Baby.
But this is the 80s. Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. 80s were pretty bad, too.
People were doing lots of cocaine in the 80s, though, or so I'm told.
In Japan?
I don't know, man.
There must have been a way. Some
I don't
small
know.
way.
I don't know much about Japan in the 80s. I couldn't tell you how much cocaine they were doing.
Some form of resistance that she mustered. What she could muster. Seeking my help was part of that.
God damn it!
I howled. I stomped the floor. Why did I become a police officer in the first place? How could I call myself an officer if I couldn't save a single girl from misfortune that was awaiting her? Was it because there was so much going on at that time I couldn't process the fact that I was just asking for help? Yeah, that's right. I was still green. If I was in this situation now, I would have definitely been able to help her. But it was already over. Even I wanted to sell the regrets she left behind, Namizawa, the dangerous area, was still quarantined. Most of the people involved were already dead. The few that did remain spread around the country, unable to be traced. The stage of that tragedy was still off limits as well. The police investigation was put on hold. They lay slowly being buried in the sands of time. Just how I wouldn't have known unless ACAB had asked me about it.
Akasaka-san, are you okay?
At some point, ACAB returned with a notebook in hand. Until I saw the expression on ACAB's face, I didn't realize I was in tears.
I never realized. She wanted help! Akasaka-san, calm down. But it's all too late now. She was killed. in such an atrocious manner. She was counting on me, but I couldn't save her. I couldn't save her! I might also be at fault for not building up an amicable relationship with the village. If Rika Furude had told me about it, I might have been able to extend a helping hand. I wasn't able to build up enough trust for that. That's something I regret.
When ACAB said the word trust, it weighed on me even more. Yes, she'd given me her trust. She trusted me. Even that she thought I would have been able to ward off the fate of her foreseen death. She believed in that. I cried. I fell to my knees. I fell to my hands and knees and began to bawl. Eventually, ACAB spoke quietly.
Akasaka-san, does it upset you? It does! Then there's only one way worth mentioning for Rika Furude to have her revenge. Is there really? Is there a way to do that?
ACAB showed me the pen and notebook.
In order to properly mourn the death of Rika Furude, we have to at least find out the truth. The truth. Yes, and not just Rika Furude. Lots of people died. And their lament must be immeasurable. But their deaths were left unsettled because of the disaster. And now we can't even investigate them, as their memory fades into oblivion.
We're all stories in the end.
Many people died. The old man was killed, Kuma-chan was erased. Everybody was a victim. But the police can't even investigate it. Who's going to take care of their parting regrets? Only we can. Akasaka-san. We find the truth. Yeah! We'll find it. I've been around every one of this string of mysterious deaths and know all the inner workings of the village. You were told an important truth a year before they happened by Rika Furude. We can do it! But they're already dead. Oh, that's right. Rika Furude died. You were too inexperienced, so you couldn't save her.
Why is he owing?
Oh, I think it was like
Okay.
a pained sound, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
It was hard to tell with that.
ACAB grabbed me, who was a wreck, and lifted me firmly by the lapels.
That's why. To atone for that, we reveal the truth. If what you say is true, then all the incidents were part of some greater design. If that's the case, then how we investigate needs to change completely. I intend to spend tonight summarizing all the information you and I have, and then get in contact with one of my former subordinates first thing in the morning. We're not going to let the case go cold. We're definitely going to crack it wide open. Crack it open. Crack it open!
As they're fucking drunk.
We
Yeah.
will.
Oops. No.
They're drunk as fuck. You should be talking about cracking open a cold one.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
Just a cold case.
Several years have passed, but it's not beyond the statute of limitations. Even if the case has been postponed, it's not closed. It's still going. We're going to keep it going.
ACAB vowed to bring the truth of the case into light and stood up. Everything ended in 1985.
Yep. I was born and then everything ended. Damn.
I at least wanted to apologize, had searched for her grave.
It was all downhill from there. I'm sorry.
After the state autopsy, her remains were entrusted to one of the shrine followers. In the future, when the quarantine on the Hinamizawa area was lifted, they'd be returned to her family grave. However, unsure of who exactly took the remains of Rika Furude, until today, I couldn't even apologize to her. In the future, when the quarantine on the Hinamizawa is lifted, all I could do then was wait until whoever that person is returned to the grave. What I could do right now was not apologize to her. Instead, until I was able to meet her again, I would reveal the truth and dispel her regrets. Even now, sporadic eruptions of gas in the Hinamizawa area and the prospect of quarantine being lifted wasn't happening anytime soon. Most likely, it seemed like that she had no intention of meeting me again until I found the truth. That's why the quarantine would be lifted, or so I thought. To the day I grasped the truth. It was the following year. ACAB and I co-authored a book on the string of mysterious deaths leading up to the great Hinamaji Disaster.
Hey Fred, thank you so much for the raid. How was your stream? What's up? We're almost at the end of Himatsubushi.
So close.
Hello Chief Beef, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here reading through Higurashi. I hope you had a wonderful stream. What were y'all doing tonight? Stream was good, lots of wins in Overwatch. Oh, nice! Awesome. Glad to have you. Doing fantastic? Awesome. Woo! We're doing okay. We're finally getting some the gears are turning in our heads about what's going on in this story. We're
We've
about
been
4 arcs in.
theorizing.
Yeah, theorizing, and we're about at the end of the question arcs of this game, quote unquote, which is more of a story about figuring out what happened. And we're going to start into the answer arcs most probably next week, hopefully. So let's see if we can finish this up. Let's do it. It's very yeah. There's gore. There's a lot of triggering stuff in this. So I completely understand if you need to step away.
Let's fucking go.
I decided on the title. Higurashi. When they cry.
Bum bum bum.
Why?
And the title of our game, ladies and gentlemen. The title of our game.
Roll credits.
That was because for those few days I was in Hinamizawa, the sound that I remembered the most was the cry of the Higurashi. I can only wish that based on this book, those people involved with that incident would refresh their memories and bring to light a new truth. And more importantly, that nothing like this ever happens again. I wrote this in the afterword. Why did this tragedy happen? We can't reach the truth by ourselves. If you're reading this, please discover the truth. That is our only wish. ACAB-san and idiot Akasaka-san.
Hey, it's those words from the beginning of the stories.
Damn.
Wow. This year, the quarantine on Himazawa still hadn't been lifted. We found the truth yet.
Boom! We did it!
End credits.
Roll. Hot damn. Woo!
Roll credits.
Oh, new scenario.
All cast
I
review
think
session.
this is the after party.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been skipping them for most of the other arcs, I think.
Mm-hmm. Achievement unlocked.
That's
Our
our
only
last
wish.
achievement.
Hey,
Only
we
wish.
did it.
We sure did. Damn.
Wow.
Hot damn. The question is, we have 40 minutes. Do we start on the answer arc?
My body is ready.
What's it, Kayla?
Sure.
Fuck yeah.
Sure.
Okay, let me
Fuck yeah.
let me
Let's
set
do
this up
it.
really quick.
After party, we want to do the.
Do you want to read through the after party where they're just talking like caring about the stuff we just learned in this
That's true.
No, I wanna go on to the answer arcs.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Okay,
It's
okay,
been-
okay.
I have been waiting
Do you like
so
answers?
long for answers.
I'm sorry for those of you who came in during the answer. Sorry, I'm gonna switch games really quick. I need to.
That's fair. Do you have it
Guys,
downloaded?
guys.
I do.
We are finally
I need to switch over in the overlay.
getting some answers after how many weeks?
How
So
many
many.
weeks?
So many weeks. At
Okay.
least like 3 months.
Uh-huh.
At least.
That's not what I need. Where are you? Where is... There it is.
Alrighty.
Let's fucking go. English. Gotta set up some
Hey,
things and
now,
make
Chief.
it bigger.
Don't be mean like that.
Do I
Don't
need to
be
wait more?
mean like that.
I'm not on the Twitch chat right now. What's he saying?
He said we need to wait more.
Could be evil and go reset the router. Don't you dare, Phoebe!
Yes.
Don't you dare reset the router, Phoebe!
Don't you dare!
Phoebe, no.
No.
Phoebe, I've been waiting so
Phoebe.
long for this. Don't do me like that.
Okay, I need the background volume because, oh my god, it's really loud.
I need the answers, Phoebe. Don't fuck with me like that.
Oh god. Okay, I need it bigger. There we go. Close. Alright, let's fucking do this. Mayakashi Hen.
Let's fucking go. Flint,
God.
you need to stream it in Discord too.
Right,
We need-
sorry.
We need
We
to.
need it.
Yes, sorry.
We
One
need
moment.
it.
Getting there. Okay, okay.
Unless you want stream delay on whatever you need
No,
us to
no,
read things.
no. Wait, let's see. Can you see and hear that?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Eye-opening chapter.
Mayakashi Hen, beloved cutthroat.
Oh gosh.
Finally reached the halfway point. From the viewpoint of the protagonist, try to find the truth behind the tragedy that unfolds. The difficulty is very high.
What's this? Higurashi when they cry Kai.
Kai. Yes, that's
Kai.
the basically the remake or like the remake with the updated visuals and the updated
Got it.
translation.
Gotcha.
Let's
Wait,
fucking
difficulty is very
go.
high. Why is it high? What is
Oh my god, the creepy child laugh.
Creepy child laugh.
No.
I-
No.
All right.
Every arc, I forget.
She dropped her beads in the sand, so the girl cried. 100 years the girl searched the sands. They might be in the ocean, not the sand, so the girl cried. For 100 years the girl searched the ocean. They might be in the mountains, not the ocean, so the girl cried. How many years will pass before the girl wonders if she really dropped them? Frederica Berncastle.
The whole time they were in her pocket.
So, are we back to Keiichi's perspective
Nope.
this time?
Find out.
We shall see.
Who's narrating?
Good question.
Bunches.
Am I?
I'm so
Yeah,
fucking
you are.
excited.
Okay. 7 keys were attached to the keychain. Without knowing which key was the correct one, I had to go by instinct and try every key, one by one. On average, I'd reach the correct key within 3.5 attempts.
Oh, this seems much too logical to be Keiichi.
I'd be fortunate if I could open the lock within the first 3 keys, and I'd be unfortunate if I didn't. I had to think of the worst case scenario, getting the right key only on the very last attempt. I fought with my nervousness. My head ached from it. I put the key in and I turned it. I just needed to repeat that small procedural steps more times, but I couldn't stop shaking. Damn. Even a 3-year-old kid can do something this easy. So am I more childish than a 3-year-old? Whatever, I don't care if I'm clumsy. I just need to try all these keys. Even in the worst case scenario, the lock will open on the 7th try. No way.
No way.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Reality isn't always the same as math. What happened was worse than my worst case scenario. None of the keys worked at all. I could feel the blood draining from my brain. Did I get the wrong set of keys? No, I definitely see a faint marking that says the set is for the door. This door. Am I just reading it wrong? Should I go back to the key cabinet to look for the right one? That would mean a great loss of time. Just by being here, I'm already risking so much. Something that could ruin everything might happen any moment. If I can't open this lock, do I have to go back to the administration office? If there were no other choice, it'd be a waste of time to spend another 3 seconds here. The administration office wouldn't necessarily be empty at this time. Somebody might come in. I won't be able to look for the right key if that happens. I stood up quickly as if electrified. I was almost in a panic and so felt the urge to move. My instinct pushed me. I have to go back there as quickly as possible. It's dangerous to be here. It's also dangerous if somebody comes to the administration office. Oh, right, I need to change the category. Shit. Edit that really quickly. Mayakashi. Done. I cooled my head, making it as chilly as possible to repress my fear. Calm down, Shion. Mion wouldn't panic in this situation.
Oh, we're Shion.
Maybe I'm just mistaken. Why don't I try the keys one more time? The next moment, I felt a faint vibration in the air. Somebody was walking somewhere in the hallway. If it weren't a normal situation, I would have known I wouldn't run into them, since the footsteps were very far away. but at the time I couldn't think calmly. Oh, shit. Why am I panicking this much just because of footsteps? Calm down, calm down. I should be feeling excited instead. Calm down, calm down. I just need to do what I have to do. I should ignore the footsteps because they're not an immediate threat. Pretend they aren't there. I have to listen for something much more important right now. Oh, shit. This key should be hard and cold, but it's pliable and hot. It feels like rubber. How could I stick this into the keyhole? Shit, shit, shit. It wasn't the key that was pliable. It's my fingers that were limp. Oh, shit, shit, shit. The key sprung out of my hand and fell to the floor. It shouldn't have made any sound because it was so pliable, but it made a tremendous metal noise as if somebody pushed over a cupboard. Cling! The sound almost stopped my heart. I felt dizzy for a while. I looked around afterwards to carefully see if I had caused any disturbance to the surroundings. Calm down, calm down. Nothing's changed. I don't hear anything. So, am I safe? Calm down, calm down, calm down. Wait, I don't hear anything? What about those footsteps in the distance? Calm down, calm down, calm down. They're looking for me after they notice the sound? Oh shit, what is that sound I'm hearing? Is that my sweat dripping on the floor? Shut up, shut up, shut up. How can I hear the sound of my sweat? Calm down, calm down, calm down. Calm the fuck down. I have to clarify, this isn't a prison or a detention center. It's a private school. Not a normal one, though. It costs a fortune just to get in. It's a boarding school that provides education from elementary school to university. Being for girls only rather than a school, you could say it's a factory that manufactures ladies. Some of my classmates here have never even used public transportation. Really,
Oh.
it isn't normal. To me, saying, "How nice to see you," instead of just "Hi," is already insane. And calling the teachers sisters gives me the creeps. I hate the morning and evening prayers, to say nothing of the Sunday Mass.
Ah, Catholic school.
I don't want to memorize the Bible passages, and the Holy Ghost gives me a rash. If I stayed in this institution, that's what I call the place, for many years, I'd either go crazy or be brainwashed. Most of the girls choose to be brainwashed, but I can't do that. After all, I was more impressed by the political schemes and international trade behind religious propagation than by the love of God which the Bible teaches. Because of that, I've been treated as a problematic child from the beginning. I experienced lots of disadvantages as a result. I realized it quickly, so I superficially pretended to be normal. However, I got tired of acting, so I started to reveal my true self from time to time. I became a problematic child once again. People started to treat me differently once again. It's fun to misbehave, but it wouldn't do anything for me in the long run. So why did I act that way? Why, even though I thought I knew it was going to backfire on me later on? After examining my emotions, I realized that I'd completely had it with my surroundings. I was afraid of being brainwashed in this institution. I can't live here. I won't let them brainwash me. 6 months ago, I decided to escape this place. The moment I made up my mind, I started to feel alive again. I acted ladylike in order to deceive the sisters. Pretending became fun once I'd set my goal. It gave me the creeps when they told me with smiles that it was God's influence that I'd started to behave religiously. I laughed at them behind their backs. I took on my classmates' duties in order to understand the layout of the school and the schedules of the staff and guards. I soon found out the security of the school was immensely tight because there were many daughters of important people living here. The guards walked their beat randomly. There were surveillance cameras everywhere. The system that kept out intruders ironically also worked to prevent escapees, but that excited me instead. I simulated how to avoid all the surveillance in my head many times. I drew an escape route in the corner of my notes during class and tested if it worked. I strove to acquire any necessary skills for the escape. It was all fun. After all, the situation was cathartic for me. That's who I am. No matter how hard they tried to brainwash me, I'd never change. I've been waiting for this moment of my escape, preparing physically and mentally. First, I needed the courage to escape. I had to be confident of the plan. I had to think deeply about it. I also needed skills and physical strength. I imagined all the possible obstacles and trained myself. It was funny because I was finally able to enjoy gym classes, even the long-distance runs. I needed a perfect plan, as well as the physical strength and skills necessary to execute it. Also supported by those things, I needed determination. I made sure that I had all I needed and executed the plan. I decided to plant a seed in school before the appointed day. The seed was a rumor that one of the male teachers was having a relationship with a student. I won't go into the details now, but that can turn into an enormous problem in this school. The school is limited to girls precisely because of their parents wanted them to avoid these kinds of problems. Those parents are mostly important people from various positions. If the romance was a fact and was leaked to the public, the principal would have to commit suicide in shame. In fact, even that might not be enough. In the world of girls, rumors spread fast, especially when they're separated from boys and are obsessed with dirty thoughts. So this kind of rumor goes around really quickly. The sisters try to get rid of that kind of rumor, and they warn the students not to be swayed by it. But apparently they're the ones who are the most swayed by those rumors. This means that I managed to make them furtively deal with something shady, without contacting families or the authorities. So if I disappeared in these circumstances, it'd look like I ran away with some teacher. All the male teachers would deny it, of course. However, the school wouldn't believe what they said so easily. After all, there's a dirty rumor going around. By the time school finds out about my escape, after they eliminate all other possibilities, I'll be somewhere safe. I tried hard to spread the rumor that I was involved in the forbidden romance as widely as possible. The sisters questioned me a few times, but since the romance was something I'd made up, they couldn't find anything. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find any evidence. After 3 months, I was certain that I'd created a solid foundation. I swapped after-dinner duties with my classmates so that I could adjust my schedules on this day. I was even able to fill in them with suspicion about me by doing that. Now they'll definitely suspect I ran away with some male teacher. Tonight was the night. I began my chores after dinner. After lights out, somebody will find out about my disappearance. My generous roommate would probably wait about 10 minutes before she reported me to a sister, but no longer than that. I had about an hour tops, but that's enough for me. I took a step off my regular route. That was the first step towards my great escape. I calmed down and thought, the key shouldn't be wrong. This lock is old and firm. Isn't it possible that I put the right one in, but the lock was just stiff and I only thought I got the wrong one? I realized that my nervousness was making me clumsy. The gloves that I'm wearing to avoid leaving fingerprints must be getting in the way too. I should try the keys one more time. I picked the most probable one and gently inserted it into the keyhole. It's stiff. If I twist it too strongly, I might break the key. The moment I thought of giving up, I felt something on my fingertips. The key worked! I slowly opened the door. I could hear the crickets. I don't have to hesitate now, but somehow I'm reluctant to step outside. I can still make excuses up to this point. It might look awkward, but I still can. But if I take a step outside now, there can be no excuse. If the guards find me, they'll take me to the offices immediately. There have been some escape attempts before. That's not really so strange. I don't think I'm the only heathen here. It's understandable that there have been people before who couldn't fit in this place. So the school is well aware of the possibility of escapees. I've heard rumors about what happened to those who were caught while attempting to escape. I don't want to believe any of those stories, though. You see, all the school's horror stories involve students who attempted escapes. Whatever, bring it on. I'm not expecting to get a second chance anyway. There'll always only be one chance. Things get serious beyond this door. I psyched myself up and pushed the door open. A strong smell was hanging in the air. Is that normal for the outside? I'd never smelled the strong grassy smell before.
What an odd soundtrack choice.
Alright. Is there something going on? Do I have to be wary of it? Should I go back and wait for another chance? That's silly. There's nothing strange going on. I smell something I smell every day. I just wasn't aware of it. It's true, isn't it? Even though I pretend to be cool, I'm nothing but a nervous wreck. Calm down, Shion. I can rely only on the map inside my head from this point onward. I'd researched the locations of all these surveillance cameras. I'm confident that I'll be able to avoid all of them, but I'm not sure about the guards. They pick the patrol's route randomly after all. I have to take a chance. I can hide myself in most places, but there's an area where there's nowhere to hide for several meters. I concentrated to keep my senses keen. Well, I have to depend on my luck in the end. Even if I do my best, the guard might find me by mere chance. On the contrary, I might be able to get away no matter how unwisely I choose to move if I'm lucky. Damn, after all that effort, it just spills down to luck? This is a gamble, after all. When I realized that, I got excited. Yes, this is a gamble. I'm trying my luck. This is a game to test the determination to change my life. If somebody failed to escape from the school, that meant that they didn't have enough luck to survive in the real world. But I'm different. I'm going to get out of here. We've gotten to Kakegurui at this point. I'm testing my luck.
I guess,
Here goes,
yeah.
Shion. I ignored the noisy bugs and concentrated only on the suspicious sounds. I heard no threats. The loudest sound wasn't the bugs, it was my own heartbeat. Crunch. Even my own footsteps were so loud they could break my eardrums. With each and every step, my overactive imagination tormented me with premonitions of unexpected run-ins with guards. Countless times that torture grew too hard to bear, and I thought of running. But if I broke into a run, the noise I made would only draw suspicion. If anyone heard running at a time and place where people shouldn't be, they would realize something abnormal was happening. But if the footsteps they heard were just walking, then they'd likely think nothing of it. Of course, I don't plan on letting them hear these footsteps. I tried to extend my senses to get as much information as possible. I didn't sense anyone's presence. I might have felt safer if I heard a guard in the distance. I'm worried that my senses might not be keen enough to detect everything. Somebody might be right behind me without me being aware of it. I didn't want to make any noise, so I stopped from time to time. It's like I'm constantly fidgeting. To stop or to run, something within me urged to choose from either one. I can't choose to stop. I have to keep going quickly and stealthily. I'm already risking so much just by being here. Running, of course, would be absurd. I know that. The urge to run continued to bug me. My head was filled with those thoughts as I went through this dangerous territory. I succeeded in passing through without running into anybody. I couldn't help but sit for a moment and exhale the rotten air from my lungs. The negative thoughts vanished quickly. Just a little more to go. Just a little more. Just through that bush over there is the fence that separates this place from the outside world. Once again, I strongly felt the urge to run. I suppressed that desire and carefully tackled the final step. The beautiful-looking fence didn't seem designed to prevent escapees. While I was worried that somebody might see me climbing up the fence, it fortunately didn't happen. It's even possible that this fence might have a touch sensor. It's too late now. It doesn't mean anything now since I'm already climbing up. From the top, the fence seemed about 7 feet high. I have to go down carefully, just like when I climbed up. I knew that logically, but I couldn't think that way anymore. I chose to jump off with no hesitation. Of course, I regretted my decision during the fall. I got scared because the flight was longer than I expected. I didn't land beautifully. I fell on my butt. But there was nobody around to laugh, and I didn't have time to be embarrassed. I looked around to see if anybody heard my landing. Even the crickets weren't interested in the sound I made. I felt relieved. I looked at my watch. 5 minutes till 8 p.m. It was just a 15-minute escape. Putting a number to it really made it obvious how short it had been. Looking back, most of the time I was just asking myself questions and hesitating. I guess I worried too much. But I can't be too relaxed just yet. There's no guarantee that I fooled all the cameras. This place isn't a bank. There won't be a fire alarm going off even if the guards did see me. It's possible they're rushing this way right now. I can't enjoy the air of freedom yet. I hid myself in the darkness and waited. There's still time left until the rendezvous.
Wait, is that the first? Is that the first chapter break already?
Looks like it.
What? Okay.
You want to take this part?
Sure. I watched the school premises while waiting, but it looked like nothing strange was going on. The building was lit up with the beautiful Western-style architecture, and it's hard to believe that it was a school. It should be armed with electrifying wires, searchlights, and guard dogs like prison it is. Thought I'd experience a surge of school memories in a situation like this. But it didn't happen. That sort of thing only happens when you have good memories, after all. I have no good memories of this school. There's nothing to remember. But if I could pick a series of images to recall, it'd be the luxurious dinners we've had every night. So my memories would be nothing but international cuisine, Japanese, Chinese, French, and so on. What the hell? That's just too funny. I burst into laughter. At that point, I heard a car approaching. Crouched in the darkness. Plate number is the same as I was expecting. That's the car.
I jumped out and rushed to the passenger's side, then opened the door and got in.
Hey.
Nice to see you, Shion-san.
Driver was a man of early old age.
Who the fuck are you?
He'd be angry if he heard me say that, though. You still think he's middle-aged? He looked at my face and learned that I succeeded, and he smiled.
The air feels so fresh. I want to eat a burger for a start.
I heard they serve excellent food in the school, but I suppose you were served nothing but gruel, huh?
No way, dumbass. I was just kidding. Step on the gas if you have time to laugh at me.
As you wish.
Kasai really did laugh out loud. After telling me to buckle up, he accelerated.
I'm pretty sure we've at least heard the name Kasai, but we've never seen him.
That sounds right.
Yeah. The cathedral-like school disappeared from the mirror in an instant. It disappeared so quickly that I didn't have time to a surge of dinner memories. Goodbye, my lovely school days. I fill my stomach with just junk food from now on. Be forever free from the table manners you taught me. Serves you right. As we drove, the scenery began to change. Soon we were surrounded by vast fields of crops and few streetlights. Reminded me that this was the countryside of Japan, not Europe.
Are you hungry? Would you like me to stop somewhere to eat?
That's okay, I already ate.
I lied. I'm actually a bit hungry. I didn't eat much at dinner to avoid slowing myself down with a full stomach. Appreciated Kasai's offer, but I didn't feel like taking the time to eat while we were still in enemy territory.
It's late, so you'll find only vending machines at the highway rest stops. Oh, I've heard there are hamburger and Odin vending machines nowadays.
Huh? What the hell? Will that dispense a cup and ingredients like a coffee vending machine? That's gross.
I don't think it's like that. Usually comes in a can.
Sorry, I can't stand canned food.
Still? I thought you might have grown out of it.
I haven't because I can't. Shut up. Why are you laughing?
You can't?
Kasai chuckled. He must have been trying to help me relax. He isn't usually so talkative.
I'm exhausted. I'm going to get some sleep. How do I recline this?
Look for the lever on the lower left part of the seat. Can you find it?
Oh, here it is. Here I go.
I laughed again.
Did I do something funny?
No. It's just that the way you talked sounded like Mion.
Well, obviously. Me and I are identical twins. We're perfect copies of each other. When he acted something, so will Mion. When Mion reacts to something in a certain situation, I'll react the same way.
How's sis?
I believe she's fine. I only see her when I bring your father to the family councils.
That's right, she doesn't live in our parents' home anymore. She's living with the hag in Hinamizawa now, isn't she?
She moved into the main house around the same time you started going to that school.
I responded with a distant disinterest, even though I was the one asked about her in the first place. The main house is where Oreo, current leader of the Sonozaki family, lives. That's my grandma, who I call a hag. But when we use the phrase the main house, that usually means it's more than just a dwelling. What Kasai refers to is the same thing.
Did she change?
You mean Mion?
Yeah. I think she has to have change if she's living so closely with the hag.
Kasai chuckled yet again. He knows I hate my grandma.
I haven't noticed any changes. She's still the Mion you know.
What about me? Did I change?
No, not at all.
I responded quickly with a smirk. I hadn't seen him for a while, though. It's not as fun if he answers this quickly. I glared at him, and then he burst out laughing.
You haven't changed at all. That's admirable, since you've been in such a strict school for so long.
Damn it. Laugh as much as you want. I'm going to sleep.
There's a blanket in the back. Please make use of it.
Thanks.
I grabbed the blanket and rolled up in it. I'm exhausted, but I can't go to sleep. It's strange. Or maybe not. I must be tired from the escape. It's just that I'm still feeling tense. So I have to declare it once again, if only to calm myself.
I'm sleeping. I totally am.
Alright, it's the third time you've said that. Do I have to give you permission to sleep?
You're talking too much. I can't go to sleep if you don't quiet down.
I apologize, Princess. I'll keep quiet now.
This interaction with Kasai reminded me of the old peaceful days in Okinomiya. Well, I don't really know if I could call those days peaceful. We're in the middle of the damn protest back then, after all. We all united together, and now that I think about it, pulled a lot of pretty dangerous stunts. If the authorities ever find out what I did, I'd never escape going to juvie. Well, at least half the people in Hamizawa would be off to prison. I didn't think of them as criminal acts, though. It was war. I'd also been a festival. Festival, every person in Hinamaji joined together in protest. It was a struggle, but it was also fun. It was fun to throw stones at the SWAT teams with everybody. We'd hit ourselves in someone's home when they chased after us. We'd even go crowd around the police station and demand the release of our arrested comrades. We snuck into the construction site and sabotaged it. Felt like we were more playing out war than conducting out one. Got so excited back then. Felt united with my fellow members, and even though they were strangers to me, that memory warms my heart.
The damn protest about the damn protest. The damn protest.
That damn construction site!
Yeah, damn.
Yes, the way it felt back then. It was like helping everyone to carry a sacred
Palanquin.
palanquin through the village, getting all sweaty and exhausted together. Till we collapsed face first on the ground and shared our excitement and cheers with unfamiliar faces over tea. I was just a kid back then. I remember accompanying young men who worked for my dad out to the village to do various bad things. I was arrested a few times. Didn't feel any different, though, than when I was called to the teacher's office for forgetting my homework. The other villagers were furious about the damn project. For those of us who were kids at the time, it was a pretty fun memory. All that came to the sudden end a few years ago. I wasn't the only power of the protest that ended the damn construction project. Sonozaki family, my dad's organization, had worked secretly in the shadows. This is top secret information in the Sonozaki family, but they said that they may or may not have kidnapped the ministers of construction's grandson. In order to blackmail him, of course. Grandson was found a few days after the abduction. He was found in the mountains of Higurashi. He didn't simply disappear, and he wasn't demoned away. That means some kind of deal was made secretly. A year after that, the damn construction plan was halted. Definitely. The police suspected the villagers' involvement and investigated, but they couldn't find any leads. Villagers never betrayed each other. They'd do anything to protect their fellow man. They fabricated fake alibis and fake evidence. It's easy to deceive the police. Gah. The car suddenly shook, snapping me out of it. Must have run over a bump or something. I suddenly realized my expression was a very happy one for some reason. I must have been looking forward to going home.
Shion, are you awake?
What is it?
Would you like me to take you to the house in Okinomiya?
Where else would you be taking me?
answered straightforwardly with a frown. Kasai then also chose to reply straightforwardly.
It was the family head who decided on your enrollment in St. Lucia, and you ran away from there. You do understand the situation you're in?
The school the hag chose didn't fit me, that's all.
Shion.
I know. Shut up.
As the head of the Sonozaki family, the hag's decisions are absolute. They're nothing like, say, the 3-second. Worse, the decision to confine me to a academy far away from the Sonozaki family was made before I was even born. Shion was the name they gave me. My sister, Mion, is a character that means demon in her name. That should signify that she's the successor of demons. In other words, she was the successor to the Sonozaki family and its demonic bloodline. My name, Shion, has the character that means temple in it. It means I was destined to take the veil, be confined in a temple. Thinking of that reminds me how much I hate this name of mine. For starters, the person known as Shion is an abominable being belonging to the Sonozaki.
There is an abominable being to the Sasaki family.
Oh, too. Nah, that she belongs. Because it meant the family had 2 heirs. I don't have to cite the countless historical examples to explain. It is easy to imagine how they could prove troublesome for succession. According to our long-held family traditions, one of the twins was to be strangled to death right after birth.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Unbelievable, isn't it? What that means is that I have to be grateful just to be alive and breathing to this day.
Damn.
I heard the hag actually put her hands around my neck right after I was born. I don't know what exchange took place in that moment. Maybe some brave relative of mine managed to get her to stop. Maybe she was in an extremely good mood that day. And don't try to strangle me. We're twins. There's no apparent differences between us. The first one out of my mom's stomach was named Mion. The second one drew the short straw and got named Shion. Everyone else was desperate to tell us apart, but we sisters found that awfully ridiculous. There wasn't any difference between us. No one could tell us apart, even if we only swapped hats. We had wondered why all the grown-ups were trying to see the differences. Well, our fun as twins didn't last forever. One day they created an undeniable, clear distinction between Mion and Shion. Mion went to the main Sonozaki house to live with the hag and learn how to become the successor. Now is to be confined at St. Lucia's. I have no objections to cis inheritance. I used to be jealous. Now I feel that having to learn about and follow the traditions would just make me tired. I would feel sorry for Mion. So I'm not going to be a threat to the family even if I'm back in Okonomiya. The hag doesn't seem to think that way. She thinks of me as some kind of evil omen. That's why she wanted to keep me away from her. That doesn't matter to me. I don't want to see her face either. I don't care if she doesn't allow me to enter Hinamazawa. She could charge me 2,000 yen per step I take there. But I want her to let me live in Okonomiya, where I grew up. When I was little, I was in Hinamazawa, but I don't remember it much. I'm not very attached to it. I do have good memories of my elementary school days in Okonomiya. The town isn't very sophisticated, but I kind of like it there.
If you go back to Okonomiya, somebody from the family will notice you, and then they'll report you to the main house.
Are you worried the hag will hear about me? That might be a problem.
I hope you understand the situation.
What, Kasai? Are you telling me to go back to that awful place?
No, I'm not. What I'm trying to say is,
You want to know whether I'm prepared or not.
I just hope you understand what might happen.
Well, I know what you mean. You'll be held responsible for helping me escape if things go bad, right? You should caress your pinky finger while you can, Kazai, before they take it away from you.
You should look forward to being rolled up in a futon mat and thrown into the Onigafuji swamp in that case. Maybe they'll send you to the torture room in the garden.
I heard there's a big torture room in the main Sodazaki house. I've never seen it though.
They're really just that casual about it?
Huh?
I heard they use torture and kill the enemies of the village in there. It's just
Cool.
awful, really. I hope I don't end up the victim of that place.
Okay, everything's going to be alright.
You really resemble your mother. In the way you take chances, I mean.
It's normal, she's my mom.
Dad and Mom would be furious if they found out about my escape.
Oops.
I'm more afraid of them than I am of the hag. I don't want to go into details, but my dad is part of the Yakuza. He's in charge of the organization which covers the Shishibone area. He's a very important position. So is Kasai here. He's an old friend of Dad who really trusts him. I don't know if it's true, but I heard Kasai used to be very aggressive, though he's gentle now. Also heard he has cut tons of scars. He was in charge of a few large areas, but after he was injured badly in a fight, he retired. Now he's my dad's consultant, aka drinking buddy.
Heh.
He was my caretaker in my childhood, and now I feel like he's my butler. First I thought my dad asked him to supervise me, so I hated him. But in time I started to feel like he was on my side. This is just a hunch, but I think Kasai used to be in love with my mom. My dad, Mom, and Kasai were in a love triangle. My dad took the lead in the end. Kasai couldn't leave my mom entirely, so he stayed around as my dad's friend. I could tell that the way he acts. He's seeing my mom and me. That's why he says I look like my mom every now and then. He kinda gave me the creeps at first, but he isn't a bad guy at all. He's actually pretty funny. I only found out after I got used to him. So, when I thought about escaping, I naturally turned to him. I cocktailed him in the early stage of my plan and arranged to meet him today. You'd call him a conspirator. It's not surprising he's worried about my return to Okonomiya. Considering the rules and traditions, cutting off his pinky finger isn't too far from reality. I might be rolled up in a futon mat and thrown in the swamp for real, too. Even so, there's only one place for me to return. Go to Okonomiya and nowhere else. That's my hometown. This might kinda be a homesickness, but I don't really care what it looks like.
So, what are you going to do? The Sonozaki family is everywhere.
Well, I'll lay low for now. If somebody sees me, I'll tell them I'm Mion.
Then what?
And then after things calm down a little bit, I'll start talking to my closest relatives. I know they'll be on my side. I know some people who covered for me when I had a fight with my dad once.
I see. You're trying to create a fait accompli so that the Sonozaki main house will have to accept you later on? I hope that works.
It will. There were many people who were opposed to the idea of enrolling me in that school. That decision was obviously made because of the hag's hatred towards me. Don't you agree, Kasai?
Well, yes. I thought that decision was excessive.
She couldn't make the right decision because she was suffering from menopause. All the fuss surrounding the dam protest drove her nuts.
What?
Hey? Sai smiled. Couldn't go to sleep after all, even though I was rolled up in a blanket. Even though I told Kasai to shut up, I kept talking to him. In time, I got tired of talking. So I could feel the cars run smoothly on the highway. Kasai spoke to me again.
Shion. Look.
So tired that I ignored him.
I wonder what he wanted me to look at, but I wasn't that interested. Yet I opened my eyes slightly and saw a sign quickly pass by. Because that probably wanted me to see that sign. The illustration of azaleas around the letters that said, "Welcome to Shishibone City." My hometown was coming right up.
Chapter 5, Miyakashi.
Hey.
Freeze frame. Boom. Freeze frame. Shion Sonozaki.
Alrighty.
And this is the answer arc for the question arc that Shion was introduced in. Oh god, it's set up like the beginning of a movie.
Just has our opening credits.
Credits.
Satoshi
Rumiko Chie.
Satoshi Hojo. What?
Naoto Oishi.
Oh.
Kasai, Akane Sonozaki. I think that's their mother.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Those are all
Satoshi's
the
in the
characters
opening
that are in
credits,
here?
though.
Well, yeah, wasn't he, like, friends with Shion?
Yep. And this
Well-
is
When in time are we?
Well, she just escaped, and so there
I
has
don't
to be,
remember
like,
when exactly when she escaped.
before
Hmm.
Keiichi.
Hmm.
Like, I guess, yeah, but
Well, yeah.
she's never mentioned this before.
Yeah. But it's definitely before Keiichi because she was friends with Satoshi.
Right.
She will not. Goodbye, sister.
And it's after
You get it?
Mion moved to the main house, because we know she mentioned that some time ago.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, but Mia moved to the main house, like, right after the dam construction ended.
You want to do this or you want me to, Flint?
I can. June 1982. Satoshi Hojo disappeared several days after the Tanagashi Festival. There were 3 possible reasons for his disappearance. One possibility is that it was an accident. Dead bodies sometimes end up in irrigation channels a few months after hit-and-run incidents. But since the police did a thorough search of the area and hadn't found his body, this possibility seems small. The second possibility is a self-motivated disappearance. Satoshi-kun had been living in dire circumstances. His close friends actually heard him imply he might run away. The police thought he skipped town after killing his aunt. That seemed plausible considering that aspect. But the police arrested another person for the murder, so this hypothesis must also be considered false. The last possibility is that he was involved in the series of mysterious deaths of Hinamizawa. It's also called the Curse of Oyashirasama. He fell victim to it and disappeared. Unless Oyashirasama's occult power is actually verified, this curse must be the act of humans. It's only natural to assume that Satoshi-kun was made to disappear by someone's will. So the question is, whose? The possibilities are quite limited. The culprit is either a member of the Sonozaki family, a member of the 3 families, or one of their many relatives. The police can assume that easily. I need to think beyond that. Who did it? How did it happen? And why did it have to be done? Why did Satoshi-kun fall victim? What was the motive? Who gave out that order? Who actually did it? The mastermind, the culprit, and the truth. All are in reach of my grasp. Maybe I'll find them right behind my back. But even so, I can't reach everywhere. There are parts of my back I have to make an effort to reach, clenching my teeth and cracking my joints so that the tips of my fingers can barely touch them. The truth is hidden in places like those. I'm writing this because I need to organize my thoughts and memories. Nobody will read it other than myself. But if somebody does, that means that either I threw these notes away because I no longer needed them, or I fell victim to the Curse of Oyashirasama in the middle of my attempt to solve the mystery. If it was the former, that's okay. But if it was the latter, please, I want you to help me. Please help this powerless young girl.
Okay.
So we get Shion's notebook.
I guess so, yeah, damn.
I mean, nice.
End of chapter 1.
So it begins.
So it begins.
It began.
So
with
the
more
answer
questions
arcs.
than answers.
So the answer arcs each correspond to a specific question arc?
I believe so.
Well, at the very least, this will give us more background on Shion, which is always
Mhm.
fun. Are we finally gonna see Keiichi's fucking character art? He's gotta have character, right?
Maybe. I don't know for sure.
Doubtful.
Since we're from
Doubtful.
Shion's point of view, in this one, maybe.
Yeah.
Chance.
I like Kasai already, though.
Yes, me too.
He is cool.
Yeah. That was awesome. We're finally getting into the answers. Yoo-hoo! Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kayla, for sticking around and joining it. Hell yeah. So I guess y'all good for next week?
Yep.
Cool. So we'll be back to
yeah.
answer arcs next week. Exciting.
Wait, was that a no, Kayla?
Oh no?
It wasn't now.
Oh fuck. I'm sorry. Oh, never mind. Okay, so next week.
I'm sorry, my parents are coming.
Right. So next week. It's okay. All good. Brain go burr.
I mean, they're leaving sometime next time. I don't know when, so I mean, possibility, but probably.
I gotcha. That's alright. Okay. So, who can I send y'all to? Let's see.
Bye, chat. Bye, guys.
Yep, thank you all.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Yo. So yeah. I hope you all enjoyed. Let's see. Yeah, who do we got? Who do we got for? How about Man, the list is always long and difficult, isn't it? Oh! My friend Lexakitten is having her birthday stream and showing off her new model. A new VR chat model for her birthday. So please go give her some birthday love. Lexakitten. You all are fucking fabulous. I will be back. Oh shit. I'll be back tomorrow, I believe, for some Pirates of Eualia D&D. Because we're off. It's an off week for maidens rehearsal. So here is my raid call. Here's my raid call if you're subbed. Until next time, you all stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. See you next time. Bye-bye!
I'm a badass, asexual, polyhedral dice hunter. I'm proud to be. I'm a flying ace and fly through outer space. Hello, sweetie. I'm a badass, asexual, polyhedral dice hunter. I'm proud to be in whatever sitch, like singing on Twitch or playing D&D. I'm a badass, asexual, polyhedral dice.